has just been, not good.
I'm so upset. Oh my God.
The guy!
Turks, Cenk Ugranik Kasparian with you guys. Good to be back. So huge day ahead for you guys. So we've got interesting developments in the Dr. Fauci story. I know a little bit random, but I was surprised by some of the things we found out. We'll get to that in a little bit. I think one of the most important elections is right around the corner, and that's Abdul El-Sayed versus Haley Stevens in Michigan. That's for the Senate seat. Who will win that Senate seat, Israel or America? That's on the line, obviously. And then we've got updates on the disaster unfolding inside the Democratic Party. So a lot to get to. And then after the show, Operation Joy. I went to the Galapagos Islands, which I consider to be sacred ground. And I'm gonna show you some of the pictures and some of the mating rituals. So stay around for that at 8 o'clock Eastern. And then of course tonight for the members, we have Old School.
Wild animals be having fun with their mating adventures.
They do. They have these intricate dances and we caught it on tape and it's awesome. So all right, so we have a lot to get to. Okay, so, but of course, most importantly, war. So let's start here.
Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. The pair are expected to discuss the war in Iran and the next steps forward in this conflict. We know the New York Post reports that Netanyahu will share intelligence with the president about Pickaxe Mountain next to the Natanz nuclear facility.
Well, I don't need Bibi to tell me that. Bibi's telling me that because he wants me to stay involved. I mean, I don't necessarily. We have the finest because of Space Force. We have the greatest cameras in the world focused on. We know exactly what's going on.
Fascinating developments. Both Benjamin Netanyahu and Zelensky are in town. They're both arguing for more war and now potentially emerged war. Ukraine war and the Iran war coming together in an unexpected way. And of course, if Bibi's in town, you're always going to get arguments for more and more war. Trump seems a little bitter about it. Is it real? Well, let's find out. Anna.
Well, look, let's begin with Trump's meeting with Netanyahu in the White House. This is now the 8th meeting that Trump has had with Netanyahu. And as you saw in that video, Trump does seem irritated by the constant pressure that is placed on him by the Israelis, by Netanyahu, to continue being involved in a war that has turned into a quagmire. Of course, this is the war against Iran. And I think it is worth listening to what Trump had to say in fuller context. Now, take it with a grain of salt because Trump is a liar, but sometimes he has these moments of clarity. Sometimes he's a little candid. And I do think he sounds genuinely annoyed with Netanyahu in this clip. Take a look.
There are reports now that Netanyahu is going to talk to you about ongoing excavation at Pickaxe Mountain, construction vehicles entering and exiting tunnels, paving new access roads. Satellite imagery and intel indicates that Iran is actively constructing and fortifying Pickaxe Mountain. How will we respond?
Well, I don't need Bibi to tell me that. Bibi's telling me that because he wants me to stay involved. I mean, I don't necessarily. We have the finest because of Space Force. We have the greatest cameras in the world focused on. We know exactly what's going on. But no, I heard Bibi announce that. I said, why don't you just tell it to me? Why do you have to announce it to the world? I know exactly what's going on at Pickaxe. It's not a big problem. We took out their nuclear sites, and we'll have to take out Pickaxe if we don't make a deal. If we don't make a deal, we'll take it out very easily.
Now, as I shared with you all this week, the Trump administration has listened to some of the advisors within the White House who have been urging Trump to put a pause on the bombings because of the fact that the United States is running low on interceptor missiles. So what's interesting here is that some might think, is this really an end to the war, at least the kinetic action that's taking place? I personally don't think that is what is something that we can look forward to. I think the war will continue. In fact, Trump told Axios he is still considering resuming a large-scale military campaign if negotiations fail. Such a move would likely include a joint military campaign with Israel, similar to Operation Epic Fury at the outset of the war. However, Netanyahu's visit does come several days after Trump paused US strikes on Iran and announced that his envoys are trying again to negotiate some sort of peace deal or a new MOU potentially. Only late Friday did Israel learn that Trump had decided to hold fire, and apparently the Israelis are bitter about that. And Trump also said something about Israel on Fox News that is sure to get under the Israeli skin. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, here's what I mean.
Now, when I took out General Soleimani, my first term, that set them back because I think they would have fought in a different manner. I'll tell you what, if he were around, maybe he would have had the nuclear. We stopped the nuclear with the B-2, and I stopped it also when I terminated that horrible deal made by Obama. They call it the Iran nuclear deal. It was the worst, dumbest deal. It was a road to a nuclear weapon. And if they had a nuclear weapon, you wouldn't have Israel around. Frankly, if I weren't president of the United States, Israel today would not exist.
If Trump weren't the president of the United States, Israel today would not exist. And like Israel is happy to take our money. Israel is happy to watch our soldiers die in their wars. But Israel loves to pretend as if they could totally be self-sufficient, self-reliant without any help from the United States. They are a country that exists. They're able to exist independently, except they're not. So whenever a politician like Trump, for instance, says Israel wouldn't exist without the United States, they get really spicy about that.
Yeah, okay, well, go run your own country then. You're a grown-up country. Ukraine's a grown-up country, but no, they look. Why are they in town? They were in town for Lindsey Graham's funeral, right? So even Lindsey Graham's funeral is causing more wars. So they're taking it as an opportunity to both of them do a pincer move and going, give me more, more war, more money, more military help. Well, guys, if you love war so much and you're so independent and wonderful, et cetera, why don't you go fight your own wars? I know, outrageous. In Washington, that is an outrageous thought to have, that these countries would fight for themselves instead of making us die for them. So at least Ukraine doesn't ask us to die; they just ask for our money. So look, Anna, I'm done trying to guess as to whether Trump means it or doesn't mean it about his anger towards Netanyahu. Look, there's things we know and things we don't know, and then I throw my hands up on everything else, right? So the things we know is, of course, Zelensky and Netanyahu want endless war, endless, right? They want us to finance it, and Israel wants us to fight it. That's clear. They're never gonna stop pushing for war. Israel's gonna try several different ways to get to war: persuasion, media pressure, and that's why Netanyahu leaked to the New York Post. That's why Trump is annoyed at him. He said, if you got an issue with their nuclear programs or you have intelligence, I don't want you to tell me. What are you telling the whole world for? And what he's pointing out is that Netanyahu is trying to create pressure on Trump to go back into the war. And Rupert Murdoch is the most lunatic, radical Zionist probably in the world. And so the Israelis always use his publications, New York Post, Wall Street Journal, Fox News, to push for more war. They get Trump on, they're like, aren't you gonna do more war? More war, otherwise you're weak and you're a coward and all that stuff. So we've seen this movie 1,000 times. We also know that we're running out of interceptor missiles. Ben Shapiro the other day was livid about that making it into the news. He's like, shut up. You're not, the American people are not to know that their military is in danger and their troops are in danger.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they might not have them die for Israel.
Oh my God, it's so good to have you back. You have no idea. That post on X by Ben Shapiro was so loathsome and disgusting. He was more angry about the fact that the media is reporting about the reality of our depleted missile interceptors than he was about the fact that our soldiers are getting killed fighting a war on behalf of Israel.
Come on, guys.
It's amazing to me. It's amazing.
So look, we know, of course, anybody that's conscious understands that guys like Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin care about Israel a billion times more than they care about America. I don't think they care about America at all, actually. I just think that they view us as like a dumb mule to whip every once in a while to do Israel's duties and wars, etc. Come on, everybody knows that. If you're denying that, you're on a different planet. It's not worth talking to people who aren't being honest, right? So that doesn't mean that applies to everyone who's in favor of Israel. It's certainly, or anyone who's, well, if you're in favor of this war, you're either the dumbest guy in the country or you're for Israel, right? But you're not for America. Nobody in America wants this war. And then we keep having these nonsense conversations about their nuclear program. I'm so tired of going over it. He's, again, Trump in one of those Fox News appearances talking about how Obama made a terrible deal. Like Obama had stopped their nuclear program. The only reason we got out of that deal was so that there could be a nuclear program to use as an excuse to go into war. But now we're at the same loggerheads we've been at for months, which is if we keep going further, especially with the low interceptor missiles, we are in grave danger. Now you see more and more casualties mounting, yes, right? No matter how much they try to hide it. And for a second there, the market was like, oh wow, oh yeah, right. We're in the middle of a war that involves oil, and it started dipping, yes, right? Now the schmucks are hear from Trump, oh no, don't worry about it. We paused fighting. No, we didn't. We bombed them again yesterday. So then the markets go back up. So look, it's going to be economic and military and human disaster for us if we continue. That's been the case for a long time. But there's no force more powerful on earth, honestly, than the Israeli lobby. So it's all of America versus the Israeli lobby. And by the way, miraculously, I have it at a tie now, which in the past, the Israeli lobby would easily maul every American voter, would win in a landslide. But this war is so disastrous, yep, it's gotten to about a tie.
And Americans are awake, and that's the one thing that's been giving me hope. So there is a monkey wrench that is worth mentioning here, and that has to do with Zelensky, who was also here for Lindsey Graham's funeral, but also, let's keep it real, it's an excuse to meet with Donald Trump, and that's exactly what he did. So let's talk about that meeting a little bit. So Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky met with President Trump at the White House today. Zelensky was in town for Senator Lindsey Graham's funeral. Now, Trump appears to have significantly warmed to Zelensky, and it's not an accident. As I shared with you all yesterday, Zelensky had carried out a strike against an Iranian vessel in the Caspian Sea and argued that it was a justified strike because he alleged that Iran was sending Shahed missiles to Russia, which Russia uses against Ukraine. Now, Iran says that they were shipping steel to Russia. There's no way of me confirming who's telling the truth, but nonetheless, this is obviously an escalation involving Ukraine kind of getting themselves involved in this war, even as they have their hands full attempting to fight off Russia and the ongoing invasion that Russia carried out beginning in 2022. Now, the Ukrainian president has tried to charm Trump quite a bit, and it's part of this concerted campaign by European leaders to improve Trump's relationship with Zelensky, so he will be more willing to help supply weaponry to Ukraine to fight Russia. But more importantly, Trump has come to admire Ukraine's drone industry, especially its ability to defend against the same drones the US faces in the Iran war. Trump, a senior administration official, said, likes winners, and Zelensky, in the US president's estimation, is increasingly looking like one. And look, that is a huge change, a complete 180 from what we saw with Trump and Zelensky in that Oval Office meeting just last year, where Trump essentially called Zelensky a dictator. You had JD Vance essentially telling Zelensky that he needs to be grateful. It was a very tense and awkward moment. Trump had even paused all weapons and intelligence sharing with Ukraine following that meeting. Now things are different. Republicans on Capitol Hill, including Senator Graham, worked overtime to basically patch things up between Trump and Zelensky, and it seems like he made quite a bit of progress doing that. Trump was impressed by, there was a heavyweight Ukrainian boxer who visited him in the White House, in the Oval Office specifically. This was last month before the Ultimate Fighting Championship cage match at the White House. So Alexander Usyk is his name. Usyk told Trump that Ukrainians are fighters and winners, just basically using the kind of rhetoric that tends to appeal to Trump. And apparently he made a good impression on him, especially after he gave Trump a signed boxing glove. The two men bonded over their love for the late Muhammad Ali. And so at that point, Trump was starting to warm up to supporting Ukraine more in their fight against Russia. Trump now sees Putin in a less favorable light. According to two people familiar with his views, Trump's desire to improve US drone warfare, though, is really what has a lot to do with this, okay? Like, yeah, you can butter Trump up, but he likes cookies. So what kind of cookies can you give us? And believe it or not, despite the fact that we're spending already over $1 trillion a year on our military, the United States is shockingly behind when it comes to drone technology, and so Trump is seeking to learn and to get some of that technology for our own purposes. Trump announced at the NATO summit as well that the U.S. would consider granting Kyiv a license to produce U.S. Patriot missile interceptors, and he expressed interest in joining with Ukraine on drone production. And yeah, look, there's a lot more to share with you. Like, for instance, the Ukrainians have been defending against Iranian-made Shahed suicide drones, fending off the types of attacks that apparently the US military is dealing with as well in the Middle East. Over the course of the war, Ukraine has transformed into a military drone powerhouse. It went from producing around 5,000 drones a year in 2022 to millions a year in 2026, according to data from Ukraine's government. And yeah, Trump loves quid pro quo. He wants something out of this relationship, and he sees this as a potentially beneficial relationship. And that's, I guess, fine. But what I'm more worried about, Cenk, is this war against Iran snowballing into something much greater, something much bigger that puts the lives of Ukrainian civilians at even more risk and more danger. Because the fact of the matter, guys, and I've said this on the show before, I'll say it again, we are low on interceptors. We are unable to supply Ukraine with the interceptors. They take years to make. So even if Trump gives them the license to build their own, it will take years to make. This is a huge gamble by Zelensky, and it does appear like he's trying to merge the war.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, so I'm kind of burying the lead here because I think there's two huge things here. Number one, I'm done officially with supporting the Ukrainians' war. So it's been a long time now. I don't know, they seem like they've been at war for about 18 years now. So the reason I was in favor of it, because Russia attacked them. It was definitely Russian aggression. Yes, there were reasons and excuses, etc. Bottom line is, you attack someone like Israel attacks Lebanon, it's Israel's fault. Russia attacks Ukraine, it's Russia's fault. So number two, we had promised the Ukrainians defense when we had them give up their nuclear weapons. Okay, but now we've supported you for about 87 years in a row in this war. There's a limit to how long we can go. What if the war goes for 2 centuries? Do we still owe you, right? So now, the second issue is that Ukraine has now become basically Israel. Now, why do I say that? We're a rare show that talks about this phenomenon. It's really important. Remember, Russia was helping Iran and Syria. Israel needed Russia distracted so they could topple Bashar al-Assad. Oh wait, that happened, didn't it?
It did, yeah.
During the Ukraine-Russia war, and that Iran couldn't be helped when Iran was attacked. Oh right, that also happened during the Ukraine-Russia war. So Ukraine and Israel working together to keep Russia busy so that Israel can attack its neighbors and take more territory. So before that was apparent to people who were paying attention. Now it's more than apparent, it's obvious, because Ukraine is literally joining the war and attacking Iran, right?
Yes, and in fact, Cenk, just to provide some receipts to bolster what you're saying here, you guys all need to read the 2018 paper that was put out by the RAND Corporation called Overextending Russia. It's basically the anti-Russia version of the anti-Palestinian clean break memo. But it's even more overt, it's even more candid about what the game plan is. You get what I'm saying? So Russia invading was wrong, but I think that it's a mistake to think that Russia invaded for no reason at all, and that there was no provocation in the lead up to that, especially as it pertains to the very overt discussions that were taking place at these international conferences about Ukraine joining NATO.
Yeah, so look, I hope to God that that Trump, is done with Netanyahu, and I just told you I think it's 50-50, right? And that we try to get out of this war, memorandum of understanding, all that, right? But remember, even if that's true, there's still a 50% chance that this war continues and actually increases, escalates, right? That's a 50% chance at World War III. That's the lead that we're burning and everybody's burning. Because why do I say that? Now, I never said World War III before. A lot of people said World War III in many different instances, and I thought it was hyperbolic, okay? But wait a minute now. So now we have Iran and Israel and America war, but also Lebanon and the Palestinians, kind of, although they have no weapons, they're just there to get slaughtered. And then the Houthis join in with Iran, and now Saudi Arabia and the Houthis. And remember, Iran attacked the Gulf countries, so now Kuwait and even Jordan, and let alone the Gulf countries like UAE, et cetera, are involved. Bahrain. So now there's already a gigantic war. And then Ukraine comes in and hits Iran. So now Ukraine is on the side of Israel and theoretically America, or at least the American president. And now Russia's on the side of Iran. But wait, it gets worse, because Lindsey Graham's last act was demanding that we do sanctions against China and India for doing trade with Russia. So they're now putting China and India on the other side of the war, potentially. Right? They haven't taken any physical action yet, kinetic action yet, but now we're financially putting them on the other side of that. This is not now it's not anywhere near an exaggeration to say, yeah, this is what a world war looks like.
In fact, now that it appears the United States is increasingly overextended, North Korea is openly talking about making moves to reconnect with South Korea.
Oh. Super interesting.
Yeah, that's in the news as well. Maybe I'll do a deeper story on that tomorrow. But yeah, I am worried because this war against Iran has already snowballed. And what's even more concerning is the various individuals involved in promoting support toward Ukraine. And one of those people happens to be Laura Loomer, who recently did a complete 180 on Ukraine. And I want to show you a little of what she had to say during her meeting with Zelensky and what she felt after her visit. Take a look.
I've received messages all day from different people in media and politics and people just who follow me online who said, wow, I didn't realize how much we've been lied to. Wow, you really opened my eyes. Or wow, that I had no idea that they had tougher anti-Semitism laws in Ukraine than they have in the United States, right? And people really honestly believe in the United States that this is a country run by Nazis and that this country is full of Nazis. That's what people believe. And I mean, I was shocked too. I had no idea. I came here and I had to learn all this information myself, but I was consuming media that was propaganda.
So during her trip to Ukraine, Laura Loomer toured the Skyfall drone facility, which Senator Lindsey Graham had visited shortly before he died. And the Wall Street Journal reports that Trump and Loomer have talked on the phone several times since her trip. She explained her change of heart by saying she was tricked by Russian propaganda and praised Zelensky as a wartime leader and an essential ally. And Politico Playbook, by the way, reported something today that I think is extremely concerning because Laura Loomer already has a lot of influence over the Trump administration, and it looks like she's seeking more. They write that Lindsey Graham's death has left Washington debating who might take on his mantle as the influential and effective war hawk in President Donald Trump's ear, because apparently there aren't enough. Laura Loomer apparently raises her hand, has a name in mind. Loomer told Politico, maybe that person has to be me. I'm not saying I'm going to run for Senate, but I would like to serve as an envoy for President Trump.
Yeah. So here's my sense of what's happened, because Laura Loomer is such an interesting wild card. So when you see Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin talking, they almost always have the exact Israeli talking point that Netanyahu is trying to put out, that Rupert Murdoch's media organizations put out. So it's, and by the way, US congressmen and senators put out. You can see it and we track it, and it's identical. I believe those people are directly coordinating with the Israeli government. Now, on the other hand, you have people who are loosely just love Israel, but I don't think are coordinating with the Israeli government, like Jake Tapper, Dana Bash, et cetera. Their gut instinct is always Israel is right, Muslims are the enemy, et cetera. And so they help, but just because of, I think, their natural inclinations, et cetera. Then Laura Loomer is an interesting one, because you think like, wait, she's like more Israel first than anyone, right? Not exactly. So before, she hated India, she hated Ukraine, right? And then all of a sudden during the campaign, if you remember, 2024 campaign, Trump and Loomer started hanging out a lot, and then there's the pictures of Trump holding Loomer, etc. Next thing you know, Trump wins, and Laura Loomer keeps going to the White House and firing people. Now, that's an extraordinary amount of power for a dingbat to have, let alone one that really has no audience. I don't even know what she does. Does she do a podcast? I don't even know, right? So she has, like, out of nowhere, one of the most radical people, social media influencer, I guess, in the country, but with almost no followers.
Yeah, she does a show on Rumble, I think.
Yeah. Okay, I guess. Okay, and she gets to go to the White House. She's like, I want that guy fired, that guy fired. But how does she even know who to fire? At that point, I believe she starts coordinating with the Israelis. Now, this is my guess. We'll have to, if we ever get an honest American president, all of this should be deeply investigated with no preconceived notions, but we'll have the evidence, dictate where it goes. And maybe I'm not right? But what I see with my eyes is all of a sudden she gains extraordinary power. Then she flips on India, goes to India and goes, oh, India, we love you now. All of a sudden you love India. Why? Israel's trying to infiltrate India, right?
I mean, they're open about it, yeah.
And they sent a whole bunch of influencers to India. Remember, you hate Muslims, hate Muslims, hate Muslims, help us in destroying and murdering Muslims, right? So then she was so against Ukraine in that war. And maybe like in terms of being fervent and strident, maybe one of the most strident against Ukraine in that war. Now she flips on that, a total 180. And she's like, I'm hearing, I have concluded on my own that Israel's on Ukraine's side. So all of a sudden, we love Ukraine. There are no Nazis in Ukraine. Remember how I was telling you there was Nazis in Ukraine? No. There's only Israelis. Our interest, American interest, wink. So I don't know what happened between Laura Loomer and Donald Trump. I don't know if that's affected anything else. But she right there is kind of admitting, look, Israelis always need a warmonger in Trump's ear at a bare minimum, right? So now that our beloved Lindsey Graham has passed, and Lindsey, good job, you made it to the end without us releasing the tapes. Okay, now we need someone else to step in and be that asset, right? And here she's literally raising her hand now, saying, I'll be the Israeli asset. Oh, we're friendly with India. Now we love Ukraine in the war. Great, now we love the Ukraine war. Why? Because now Israel, not now, she now realizes Israel loves Ukraine. And by the way, this is a funny, a little bit ironic compliment to Laura Loomer that she wasn't always in the tank for Israel. Like she.
Are you sure? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, because if she was getting the same coordinated orders that it appears Shapiro and Levin and the others are getting.
No, Shapiro's a real believer. He doesn't need orders.
I know, but he has the same exact talking points.
No, okay, that's fair.
Right?
That's fair, yeah.
But before, Loomer didn't seem to have the talking points because she was against Ukraine and she was against India, right?
Loomer's a mental patient. I don't.
And my guess is that that the Israelis didn't use her, even though she loved Israel, because she's an escaped mental patient, right?
Yeah.
But once she became so close to Trump, they realized that's a useful person.
Yeah.
Okay. And Laura Loomer also cares deeply about money. And so that's another thing that should be looked into at some point if we ever have an honest American president again.
Right. Well, when we come back from the break, we're going to switch gears entirely and talk a little bit about whether or not those strikes on those fishermen boats in the Caribbean had any impact on the drug trade here in the United States. Spoiler alert, it didn't.
So let's go to our members on TYT.com. I'm reading these blind. Asimov Prophet says, nothing Trump says means anything, only what he does. Oh, no truer words have been spoken. No wonder you're a prophet. George James 2965 says, Cenk and Anna, my dog Samantha is #super happy you're both back. She missed hearing both your voices. Well, indeed. Hey Samantha. Luby says, using Ravid as a legitimate news source requires clearly expressed grain of salt. Yes, Barack Ravid definitely has his issues. Jenks Tricep Fury says, Israel, go fend for yourself or give us our $300 billion back. Or both, that would be great. Of course, it's anti-Semitic to ask for your money back. Michael Napin says, Israel not existing without Trump is clearly Netanyahu sucking up to Trump. I don't even think Netanyahu could get those words out of his mouth, to be honest, right? So I think that's just Trump being Trump. He probably thinks the world couldn't exist without him. I mean, every time I think Biden caught up to him on narcissism back in the day, Trump says something, I'm like, nah, all right, I got it. Biden will always be number 2.
Netanyahu says after the meeting with Trump, I have just finished an excellent meeting with President Trump. When I say excellent, it's not just lip service. A conversation with full partnership, with mutual support, one of the best conversations I've ever had.
Okay, yeah, we're doomed. And if the stock market had any sense at all, it would dive tomorrow. But we'll see what happens. Boomer Dragon Cat, but it won't. They have no sense. Boomer Dragon Cat says, I wish I could carry Bart around in my pocket to put the background music to my life.
I just love you.
Man, that is a heavy compliment. That is awesome. Thank you for that on behalf of Bart. It's Just Vegas says on Twitch, is nobody gonna mention Jenks Tan? Look at that Turkish glow.
For real.
Back on TYT, Jen and Anna with you guys. Thank you to Trisha Briggs and Drunken Monkey for joining through YouTube. Hit that beautiful join button below. Rosa Roscoe and Melody Loves Music. You guys are beautiful. Thank you for gifting a membership on YouTube. And then Should Beat the Gym has joined through tyt.com/join, which we love. Thank you for doing that. We really appreciate it. All right, so now let's go to another story that hasn't been in the news as much, but really interesting developments. So it's been a month since the US carried out a strike against alleged drug traffickers in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific. But did Operation Southern Spear have any impact, or is the cocaine traffic still very vibrant in the United States? Well, we have definitive answers with data and receipts. So I bring you in.
Yes, well, the DEA has provided some commentary on this matter. And before we get to what the results really were, let's just talk about what the United States carried out and how many people died as a result. So for the past 11 months, Operation Southern Spear targeted narco terrorists allegedly trying to traffic cocaine to the United States. Now, this campaign began September of 2025, and we struck 67 vessels, destroying them, and at least 221 people have been killed. And you'll be shocked to find that killing these men, most of whom were very likely just fishermen, did nothing to stem the flow of cocaine coming into the United States. It had no impact at all. And in fact, when you get into the details, you'll realize how outrageous this whole situation really is. So look, according to a report from the Washington Post, they did this investigative exclusive report, and here's what they found. DEA analysts found the strikes had failed to affect the supply or price of cocaine in the United States and had led traffickers to diversify beyond go-fast boats and to avoid international waters, opting instead for larger boats and hemming close to coastlines where US forces are less likely to open fire. Traffickers are also relying on aircraft, which has been the case for a while now, which take off from clandestine airstrips along the Colombian-Venezuelan border and head east to Guyana and Suriname to basically avoid US forces, and that's according to what the DEA put out in their assessment. So in a closed-door meeting with Pentagon officials and lawmakers last month, it was actually revealed that these strikes didn't even have an effect on the purity of cocaine. Because think about it, if these strikes were actually effective, if they were actually hitting drug traffickers, which by the way, you don't just slaughter suspected drug traffickers, okay? Like that's not what we do. It's not what you should do. It's wrong to just kill people without any due process whatsoever. But what they noticed was, yeah, this cocaine, this cocaína, it's still real pure, which means that our operations haven't really limited the supply of cocaine coming into the United States. So that's not good news, that's pretty bad news. And smugglers have adapted to the intensified pressure Price and availability have not been noticeably affected, according to the DEA analyst report. But the Trump administration also claimed that they were attacking these boats for fentanyl, even though there was overwhelming evidence that fentanyl wasn't coming in from Venezuela. We all know where the fentanyl is coming from. The active ingredient for fentanyl comes from China, and then it is processed in Mexico and smuggled across the border. That's where fentanyl comes from. However, based on what they found in this DEA report was based on pricing, there might in fact now be, I'm sorry, let's go back to cocaine. There might in fact now be more cocaine circulating in the United States. In Florida, cocaine is selling for $13,000 to $15,000 per kilogram, a senior DEA official said, a drop of roughly 50% over the last 5 years. So it's actually become cheaper, meaning more cocaine is flooding into the country. And when it comes to fentanyl deaths, well, that was a real focus, but apparently they moved off of fentanyl after they realized that, oh yeah, it doesn't really make sense to claim that fentanyl is coming from Venezuela when it's not. But fentanyl should have been the focus of trying to end drug trafficking into the country, because cocaine was responsible for 20,000 overdose deaths last year in 2025. Fentanyl killed more than 38,000 people. Meanwhile, the strikes have made investigating drug trafficking a lot more challenging, according to the DEA. Investigators typically rely on low-level informants to provide intelligence on routes and meeting points to build cases against higher-ranking managers and bosses. Now those sources are being pulled back from the field, the current official said, to protect them from being killed in US attacks. And this is a story that was also covered by Dropsite News, and they wanted to delve a little deeper into the 221 people who were killed and what the administration is doing about the fact that they very likely killed innocent people. We'll get to that in just a minute, but I want to pause for comment from Jake.
So look, there's one piece here that you should know that gives a lot of this analysis a lot of credibility. So the DA found that once they started doing the strikes, in the first 2 months, actually the supply did go down and the price did go up, okay? But the drug traffickers immediately figured out different routes, and then as they're tracking this throughout, then the DEA sees, in the end, it didn't work at all. As Anna pointed out, the supply, and we know that through seizures that we do, is not only back to where it was, but past where it was. We'll give you some data on that in a second. And then the price is again back to where it was, but actually lower than it was. So that means there's a higher supply than before, and the purity is still totally fine. So it's the same DEA analysts that in the beginning were like, hey, it's working. Then they're like, shwang, wang, wang, it's not working. And my whole life, I've heard this nonsense about, oh, we're gonna get the supply and we're gonna end the supply. And we haven't ended it in 40, 50, 60 years, because that's not the way to deal with this problem. You really, I mean, come on, are we still having this conversation? Who's so uneducated on this issue that they don't know you can't stop the supply? It never works. We've done huge attacks. Colombia's government, Mexico's government, etc., has done huge attacks against the drug cartels. And for a minute, oh my God, we seized all these drugs, we burned all these drugs, we killed all these cartel leaders. And by the way, in this round, we kidnapped Nicolas Maduro, we hit the ships, we killed one of the largest cartel leaders in the world. And no result, nothing, right? It's never going to work. And the point isn't to actually get to win the drug war or to end the deaths in America from overdoses. The point is militarism. The point is authoritarianism.
Yes, that was the real point of these strikes. It wasn't really about doing something about drug trafficking. If the Trump administration, or quite frankly any administration, were actually serious about doing something about the overdose epidemic in the country, then you have to really consider why so many people are dying, deaths of despair. That's really what drug overdose deaths are. I mean, in some cases, because of the flood of fentanyl into the country, fentanyl was being cut into other street drugs, and unfortunately, people ended up overdosing on fentanyl, not knowing that they were taking fentanyl by using other drugs, and that's been absolutely devastating. But there is such high demand for these illegal drugs in the United States because people are looking to escape. So you, as the president of the United States, should ask yourself, Why are people in the country that I lead so deeply miserable that they are risking overdose deaths in order to numb themselves from reality? That's what's really going on here. Because the cartels and the drug traffickers, they will find a way to get that, to get the substance into the country. They're making a ton of money off of it. And I think what was really great about how honest that DEA report was that they were clear about that. They're gonna find a workaround. They're gonna find a way to get the drugs into the country, and they have been.
Yeah, so look, I said authoritarianism on top of militarism. Why that? Because now they're not drug dealers anymore, they're narco terrorists. And now Stephen Miller and others in the Trump administration are saying, you know what? Now some activists in the left wing are also terrorists.
Of course.
They're domestic terrorists.
Right.
So we're expanding the definition of terrorism so that any crime, but also maybe any protest is now terrorism, so that the central government has even more power. Now, there's a great irony here because the right wing is theoretically and sometimes in reality worried about big government power, right?
We certainly already have big government power.
And what this does is says, no. Even though this is totally useless and has never worked, no matter what Democratic or Republican president, no, we need to give the government more power to do more deadly strikes without any judicial review, without any other review, and call everyone a terrorist because big government is the answer. So this is how you get, led into authoritarian military rule.
That being said, I don't want anyone to mistake the way we're talking about this for us providing cover for actual drug traffickers who are trafficking drugs within the borders of the United States. I think those people should be prosecuted. Like, I think people who are addicted need help. They should not be criminalized. I think that they should be helped. But you got someone trafficking large volumes of fentanyl or any, illegal substance that's getting our people killed, they should be prosecuted.
But to me, that's of course.
I know it's of course to
right,
you, but a lot of them weren't being prosecuted, and that was a problem.
Not enough.
Not enough.
Okay,
yes.
but so look, that to me has more to do with justice than ending the war on drugs, right?
Agreed.
You know that fentanyl can kill people. You sell it to local kids or local people. No, that's an issue of justice for the victims and the victims' families, right? So that's why we prosecute in those cases. But in terms of winning the war on drugs, that's not going to do it either. We have to attack it from the demand end. There's no other way to win that war.
Totally agree. All right, actually, why don't we take a break? When we come back, I want to get into that Fauci story because, man, it makes Fauci look real bad. You don't want to miss it.
Merge.
All right, let's go to YouTube members now. Patience the Original writes in, Cenk, I'm so happy you're back. Thank you for saying that, I appreciate it. Soviet communist J6P says, Ukraine is an ally of Israel, they're right-wingers. Well, at this point, that's what it certainly looks like.
They certainly didn't side with the Palestinians, that's for sure.
Yeah, and you would think that if they were, if they had no connection to Israel, they would have enormous sympathy and empathy for the Palestinians and other people that have been invaded and attacked and occupied brutally by the Israelis, just like they were with the Russians.
Right.
But they have no sympathy for the Palestinians. I'm not talking about the Ukrainian people, I'm talking about Ukrainian leadership.
The government, we always are addressing governments, okay? Civilians are civilians, we're not talking about that.
Yes. Nickman7089 writes in, Dear Anna, hello from Greece, we love you. By the way, when I was in Ecuador, we had a tour guide, amazingly young Turk subscriber for 10 years. Hey Juan, how you doing? And he said, oh man, tell Anna nothing but love. So
I love you guys.
Okay, speaking of which, David Todd 96 writes in, Anna 2028.
Oh please,
Okay.
thank you, that's sweet. It's not gonna happen.
Okay, True Progressive B5U writes in, carrying to compare Biden to Trump in terms of narcissism is truly laughable, but it's typical of the horseshoe theory hosts. Here's what I would say to you, brother. Biden said that Trump was going to kill our democracy, right? And I was super worried what Trump was going to do, and it turns out we were right to be worried, right? You were worried, we were worried. And Biden, even though he knew he had dementia and couldn't finish sentences, decided, I'll risk democracy, I'll risk the Democratic Party, I'll risk the whole country so that it's me. That's nuclear level narcissism. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys, but also Mike Lopez. Thanks for joining through the join button on YouTube. We appreciate it. Fat Satter, you're awesome as always. Thank you for gifting 10 Young Turks memberships on YouTube. Lots of love for Anna out there. For those of you who are members during the as we read your comments, and I was reading Anna 2028, et cetera. And then Francis Stardust wrote in, Anna is a goddess. So that's very lovely, and we appreciate you guys. That's a YouTube member right there. And now let's do you a favor back. Noble Mobile, we love these guys. They've reduced my phone bill by, since I've been with them, hundreds of dollars, maybe thousands of dollars. TYT.com/switch. As I've told you a million times, nothing on your phone switches. Your phone stays the same. My wireless service is better than it was before. And so your phone number and everything else stays the same. Now they're got a new offer for you guys, and you know that they always give you cash back if you don't use your data. And so with Noble now you could reward your entire family using their phone less, and additional lines are only $40 a month. For that monthly price, you each get up to $20 in cash back. Plus, you can create a family leaderboard to compare cash back and the BrightRot index each month. So the most you could pay is $50, but when you add your family, the most they could pay is $40, but you all get cash back, so you almost never pay that amount. I'm almost always in the 30s every month, so it's as good a deal as you could possibly have. Now it applies to your whole family. TYT.com/switch, TYT.com/switch. All right, so now let's go to our next story. I was a big believer in Dr. Anthony Fauci, and now I'm beginning to wonder. So I don't think it means that everything he said was wrong at all, but we now know that he did lie on some very important matters, and that he apparently had a giant ego and was obsessed with how he was perceived in the media. The release of his diaries have proved a little bit devastating. We've got the receipts for you now with Anna.
Let me just begin this by saying that the one thing that I think the conservative Americans were correct about, especially as it pertained to the pandemic, was questioning authority and questioning our institutions. When the pandemic began, I had too much trust in our institutions. I have now switched over to having zero trust in our institutions. And when you have zero trust in our institutions, you're more likely to land at the accurate information, okay? This information that we now have, thanks to details of Fauci's diary being released, is beyond infuriating. And in fact, I think he should be prosecuted for it.
Okay, I don't know that I'd go that far, but I will tell you this. So we're gonna give you the details, but as you go through this, keep in mind, and there's one important detail I really wanna highlight here. The difference between scientists and the government. Fauci here was acting more in the role of the government rather than the scientists. In fact, he buried scientific findings. What it actually makes me the angriest about what Fauci did is how he accidentally, I guess, smeared scientists.
Prosecuted, Cenk, prosecuted. Let me just explain something. When we talk about gain of function research, when scientists in these biolabs that are sprinkled across the globe that we fund, what do you think we are funding that research for? Do you think we're funding gain of function research because we want to make sure we keep the global population safe from viruses? No, they're developing biological weapons. That's what they're doing. That's what that is. We are funding that. And there was a lab leak that Anthony Fauci knew about and he buried it.
Yeah.
Okay, prosecuted.
Yeah, look, I don't know that it's just for biological weapons. I think that the scientists involved, I'm sure some of them earnestly believe, hey, we've got to develop some sort of defenses for these viruses when they come. But gain of function research is very dangerous and very questionable. So let's give you the facts on what happened, and then we'll discuss more.
So this is all due to Senator Rand Paul publishing 1,100 pages from Dr. Fauci's diary, which, let's just pause, diary. Okay, you're a grown man. Okay, you got a diary where you incriminated yourself, but fantastic. So,
just real quick on that, if you're wondering why do we even care about his diary? Why are we concerned? he was keeping notes so that he could publish a book and et cetera, et cetera.
Good job.
Yeah.
Good job.
And that's more self-aggrandizement, wealth, et cetera.
Yes. So anyway, 1,100 pages of his diary were released by Senator Rand Paul. Fauci is going to testify before Congress tomorrow, and so Rand Paul puts this out ahead of that testimony. Fauci was the former director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, and the pages basically cover his thoughts and what was happening internally from December of 2019, so at the very beginning of the virus, COVID-19 pandemic, through his retirement 3 years later in December of 2022. Now, one of the most damning revelations, if you ask me, had to do with the origins of the virus. The prevailing theory that we heard over and over again was that COVID developed naturally in animals before making the jump to humans through a Chinese wet market. We all remember that. Well, that was a lie, and Fauci knew it. So on February 1st, 2020, his diary records a meeting with a dozen prominent virologists in which only 2 were willing to credit the natural origins theory. The rest suspected the virus might have been created artificially, not least because a leading scientist in Wuhan, Shi Zhengli, was known to engage in the sort of gain-of-function research that could produce such a result. So Cenk, let's just pause for a second. If this is the type of virus that would not develop naturally, why would you want humans to artificially create it? I mean, unless you're looking to create biological weapons.
Yeah, so 2 things in that. One is, I agree with you on the substance of it, meaning that even if it's true that the scientists working on it, or maybe even the government official that ordered it, cared to create a defense against viruses, artificially creating a virus to try to find a defense to it is not a good idea.
No, it doesn't make sense.
Okay,
it doesn't make sense.
So no, I get some of the logic of it, but it is taking extraordinary risk, and it's creating risk that you didn't have before, to maybe deal with a risk you might or might not have later. So if I just look at it from a logical basis, I would not take that kind of risk, even if you meant well, okay? So that is a very controversial thing to do, and we never discuss it, we never have a debate about it.
Right.
The government just orders it and says, yeah, go ahead, take that wild risk. And that wild risk costs the economy an enormous amount.
So many people died.
And not just at the economy, but my God, across the world, millions of people died because of that risk. So that is not a small thing, it's a giant thing. Number 2, that the quote that Anna read you is the one I'm referring to. The scientists actually say, no, we don't think that it was natural, we think it was man-made. And Fauci goes, shut up, scientists.
Yeah.
I am the chief scientist. Jake Tapper, Dana Bash, have me on, which by the way is, well, I'll talk about later. He was huge buddies with the media. And they have him on and they pretend he's speaking for all the scientists.
I know, I totally
when in reality, he squashed what the scientists said and said the opposite.
Yes.
And took 2 and only 2 out of dozens of scientists who said, yeah, I guess it could have been,
a wet market.
Naturally, that it came about naturally. And guys, it was right next to the Wuhan virus lab. What kind of schmuck thinks, oh yeah, it naturally came about right next to the Wuhan virus lab. In fact, that's the first thing that we broke on. Who says we were covering it, we're like, wait, this one doesn't make sense.
So, okay, look, question everything, okay? Question literally everything, because get a load of this. So only 2 of the scientists were willing to entertain the theory that it was a naturally occurring virus, naturally developed virus that jumped from animal to human, okay? Fauci's pushing the wet market theory aggressively, openly, and in public. What was he writing about privately? I take you to his journal entry, January 26, 2020. January 26, 2020, that early on in the pandemic. The diary suggests that by January 26, 2020, Dr. Fauci believed the virus had not originated in the Wuhan wet market, often identified as the source by natural origin advocates. This didn't stop him and allies from painting skeptics of the natural origin theory as politicized cranks and conspiracy theorists.
So 2 things about that. Number 1, I'm so done with the phrase conspiracy theory. I looked back to see when it became popularized, and it became popularized right after the JFK assassination, that anyone who questioned the official government story would be called crazy by insinuating they were conspiracy theorists.
I give every conspiracy theorist a listen. I listen. I mean, it doesn't mean I'm gonna believe everything they say, but I'm not gonna just automatically dismiss them anymore.
No,
Sorry.
because we have an entire government, an entire media infrastructure that is now saying that if you ever question the government, you're a conspiracy theorist and a wacko. Okay, so then that's it. I'm done with that line of thinking. And look at Fauci abusing it. And look, if we're on Fauci's side, as we were, okay, I want you to think about it this way. Millions of people died in that virus. Imagine that it wasn't a guy that we were told was on our side. It was a Trump appointment, right? Some lackey that he picked that was in the same position as Fauci. And then a virus breaks out of the lab through incompetence, kills millions of people, and that same guy then buries the news, even though he knows that it came out of that virus. You would say, wait, why did he bury the news? Why wasn't he honest about this? What was it that he did and our government did that he wanted to cover up by pretending that it didn't come from that virology lab, right? You would be very, very skeptical about a Trump appointee who caused these millions of deaths or covered up the real cause of these millions of deaths. You'd be like, why? Why did he do that? And if you're not on Trump's side and you're on the other side, or whichever side you're on, you should always question, why did they do that?
Be on the side of truth. I think the biggest mistake I made personally, so I'll take responsibility for it. When you're so partisan brained and you've convinced yourself that one side is always wrong and one side is always right, you're gonna make mistakes because either side is never 100% right or 100% wrong. So honestly, and look, part of the problem was also the fact that when the virus broke out, the president of the United States was Trump, and the way that he was communicating about the virus did not inspire much confidence. You get what I'm saying?
Of course.
So it was a crazy time. Everyone's panicking. No one knows what's going on. But let me get to more of what Fauci wrote about in his journal. So he loved to go after his critics, and in fact, in his journal, almost boasted about how aggressively he'd go after his critics. On July 14th, 2020, he tried to squash a skeptical memo about his policies by journal contributor Stephen Moore. I told White House aide Alyssa Farah that the White House, either Meadows or the President of the United States, need to shut up Stephen Moore and stop his publication of Dr. Wrong paper. If he does not, the entire academic community will dump all over the President of the United States.
See, that's a threat, and so why does he have the power to speak for the entire scientific community? I'll say the mistake that I made was not about partisanship, but it was thinking that Fauci spoke for all the scientists and the doctors, right?
Yep.
Because I love scientists and doctors. If they agree to something collectively, it doesn't mean that they're gonna be right 100% of the time, but they are far more likely to be right than Bob on Facebook, okay? But I should have been more skeptical that this government official is somehow the avatar for all the scientists and the doctors in the world when he has his own interests, including the interest of covering up some of the things he did and ordered inside the government.
Yes.
And then so now you see that he was lying when he was saying that he was speaking in favor of the scientists, and that's got me enraged.
Yeah, he's actually at war with the scientists internally, behind the scenes. And then the ego, the self-aggrandizement, so embarrassingly, Fauci said of himself, about himself in May of 2020, the situation with my national and international fame is explosive and really unimaginable. Who talks about themselves this way? He continues, it is not hyperbole to say that today I am the most famous and talked about person in the country and one of the most recognizable people in the world.
Well, congratulations. I mean, that's because of a pandemic where millions of people are dying. And this guy's like, but look at how famous I am. Bro, that's not the main lesson, that's the takeaway here.
It gets worse, believe it or not, it gets worse. So He even attempted to distance himself from the infamous lockdown policies, saying that he had no input on local policy at all. So during a meeting in 2024 with members of the House Oversight Subcommittee, that's what he said, right? Like he tried to distance himself. But in private, well, he told a completely different story. On March 15th, 2020, he wrote that then New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio decided to close city schools based on a conversation they had and Fauci's public remarks. Quote, I went on to tell him he should close the bars and restaurants in New York City. He said that he would base this on my recommendation. Okay, and by the way, if you're wondering about the efficacy of the lockdowns, that has been called into question. I mean, it's just we were lied about everything. We were lied to about everything. A 2024 study published in Scientific Reports found that the pandemic and subsequent lockdowns resulted in worsened development of social cognition skills in early childhood, particularly for students of lower socioeconomic status. Cenk, I remember way later into the pandemic, you and I had a conversation about this, not on air. We were just having a casual conversation about it, and you were really harping on this issue. And we are still suffering the consequences of that. We are still suffering the consequences of the lockdowns, the mental health problems that have arose as a result of the lockdowns. Businesses were destroyed, people's lives were destroyed. I am so furious, and I am happy that Rand Paul didn't let this go. I'm happy that the diary was released. I'm happy that we now know the truth. The real question now, though, is what are we gonna do about it? Not just in relation to Fauci and his conduct, but when it comes to funding and supporting gain of function research in countries like freaking China?
Yeah, that is so weird. Why are we working with them on gain of function research? Okay, so on Rand Paul, I thought he was being unfair in the beginning, but in the midst of some of the hearings, when he started talking about the gain of function research, I was like, wait, that's an interesting point, right? Because as I explained earlier, that's a very dangerous road to go down, even if you're being earnest, right? Yep. So now on the lockdowns, look, I'm still torn on it because if you have a pandemic and it spreads like wildfire, if it does, and this one did in a lot of ways, right? Not as bad as we thought, but certainly plenty bad enough that it killed about 1 million people inside America. So then you're in a conundrum, but you need to balance that because the balance is, yes, but the lockdowns also cause massive health problems for Americans. Mental health issues, actual like physical health issues.
Domestic violence issues.
Right, and we're, as human beings, we're not meant to be isolated. That's not the kind of animal that we are. And in fact, that's a huge part of the reason why crime spiked between 2019 and 2022. So 2023. And so that wasn't the only reason, but that was a big part of the reason. So you gotta weigh those options, but we didn't weigh them. Instead we had, shut up, okay, we're doing this. For example, the kids, that we were torn on that because the danger was not to the kids as much as the teachers, right? So I was worried about the teachers. On the other hand, we were clear, we said, no, the kids going to school is not much of a problem at all. It barely affects the kids, right? So you've gotta be honest about it, and then you've got a balance of interests. You can't just go, I'm gonna go to one side or I'm gonna go on the other side. These are difficult issues, but that's if you care about the general public and American citizens. If you care about yourself and being the most famous person on earth, or writing a book, or protecting yourself from people finding out about what you authorized earlier, then you're not gonna make the best decisions and have the best balancing act. You're gonna be skewed in that direction. And then finally I get to his relationship with the media. So in his diary, he talks about how much Jake Tapper and him coordinated and he went to their house for dinner, they came to his house for dinner, and Dana Bash and Chuck Todd and Andrea Mitchell. And the coordination, and you remember that threat we just talked about where he was like, if Trump does this, I'm gonna have the entire scientific community, whether they really mean it or he just speaks for them, right? Through the media, bash Trump. And then the media is like, well, yes, tell us what you need us to do to effectuate this. Wait, now look, if some people say that they're lean in a certain direction, at least that's honest, no problem. Here, I'll give you an example. I really like Ro Khanna. And I've had my disagreements with him, but I'm super upfront with you guys. I think he's one of the best politicians we have. So I don't hide that from you, right? But it's a different thing when Jake Tapper, et cetera, tell us that they're objective. And they don't tell us that they're actually having friendly dinners and correspondence and coordinating messaging with someone they're having on the air and pretending that, oh, golly gee, this is just a guy who happened to come on my show and I happen to push out his agenda, but I'm gonna leave out that we coordinated earlier, right? Yeah. So no, that's a different problem. And when I see anyone using the media to intimidate and bully the rest of us into compliance, that is a giant red flag. So I think that there's a lot more to investigate here in terms of what Fauci's role was. And what I really want to know is, what did we authorize in that gain of function research?
Seriously.
And why did we authorize it? Who authorized it? Because I think that's the real problem.
100%. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back for the second hour, we'll talk a little bit about the Michigan Senate race between Abdul Sayed and Haley Stevens. They just had a debate, and Haley Stevens is grotesque. I mean, I don't know. I don't have any other way of putting it, but I'll tell you why when we come back.
Hey, Andrew, what's up?
Hey, Cenk, you ready to make the switch?
Yeah, I guess.
I promise it's easy, universal, basic, and you get income.
Yeah, you keep saying that. But you sure I'm gonna have coverage?
Of course you will. You think I would have bad service? I'm Andrew Yang. Of course I have good service.
All right, let's try it. But I'm so bad at tech. So, wait. Should I do this thing of the hashtag business? Andrew, you're still on, right?
Yep.
Oh, I see it. No, wait, I don't see. Oh, yeah, I do see it. Here we go.
I actually did not realize that you'd be searching in real time, but I love it.
How much do people actually normally say?
Yeah, the average American is gonna save between $500 and $1,000 a year on Noble.
Yeah, no. You know what I'm gonna do, Andrew? Are you ready to become a Noble member? The two buttons are do it and go back. There's no going back, we're doing it.
We're doing it.
Here we go, Noble Mobile.
Oh my gosh, I just called you and are you now on Noble and not Verizon?
Why didn't you tell me it was gonna be super easy?
I know, man. Now you just stay away from your phone and watch the money roll in.
I can do that. Here you go, phone, yeah.
What the Cenk, you still there?
Andrew? Oh, well, at least I got Noble Mobile.
It was really just one take. The whole thing is wild.
It's in my shoe. It's in my shoes.
Hi, I'm Brett Ehrlich with breaking news with Brett Ehrlich. This is breaking news with Brett Ehrlich. Hi, Brett Ehrlich here. According to EPA head Scott Pruitt, climate change is not happening. He cited a meme on Facebook he saw. When pressed to back up this source, he said it must be accurate because the watermark said it was made by a scientist. So, your move, Truth.
At TYT, our mission is to boldly pursue truth, challenge the establishment, and drive positive change. At a time when corporate capture of our media, our government, and our politics is nearly absolute, everyday working people need a champion to fight for them and to push back against the powerful interests that threaten our democracy itself. At TYT, we're proudly progressive and call out corruption and duplicity wherever we see it, from Republicans, Democrats, or anyone else. And unlike mainstream news media outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to Big Pharma. We only have to answer to our audience, and for nearly 2 decades, we've accomplished that by delivering honest, timely, and insightful perspectives on the day's news without fear or favor or concern for whose toes we might step on or which powerful elites we might offend. And while we're super serious about the news, we also manage to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We can do this together and serve our audience, and yes, have fun doing it.
You are the media revolution. You are much needed.
TYT, TYT.
The place is like 95% TYT on.
You guys, the Young Turks, which is my favorite channel, we're getting that message out.
Cenk and the Young Turks do an extraordinarily good job.
No matter what mainstream media says, You have to listen to the Young Turks.
All the people who support us on the internet, that's what gives us strength. That's what allows anyone who was in there who was undecided to think one side seems to be winning. They seem to have a bigger army. There might be a reason for that. So thank you, guys.
So people, leave Pity City. Let's get it done.
All right, welcome back to the Young Turks. Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian with you guys. We got a lot more stories, so let's get to the next one. Last night, Dr. Abdul El-Sayed and Haley Stevens had a debate. It was a fiery one. The media characterized it in an interesting way, which we'll get to in a second. But this appears to be a race really between Israel and America. Who's gonna win that Michigan Senate seat? So let's find out. Anna's got the facts.
Well, look, I want to provide evidence for why you framed it that way, Cenk. So why don't we immediately, right off the bat, before we even get into the debate itself, give you a little taste of who Haley Stevens is. Take a look.
In the United States Congress, I will continue to fight for the people of Israel. I will continue to fight for Israel's existence. Israel comes to me in my dreams. I see Israel's future, and I know that Israel will continue to exist for the Jewish people.
Israel comes to you in your dreams? I'd be a little concerned about that. Let's go to the final graphic here, graphic 9. Wow, she's taken quite a bit of money from the Israel lobby, pro-Israel PACs, almost $30.5 million.
No, it's actually much bigger than that.
How is it much bigger than that?
No, because before this race, she'd already taken $20 million. Remember how she's the one who defeated Andy Levin. Andy Levin is a Zionist actually, but said, hey, I think the Palestinians should also get a state, and AIPAC was furious.
Is Israel not coming to his dreams?
Apparently he didn't, and he loves Israel, but he's like, but I love the Palestinians too, they should have a state. And AIPAC was furious, how dare you treat Palestinians as humans? So they gave Haley Stevens a ton of money to defeat a Jewish American congressman who dared to say that the Palestinians should be treated equally. So then in this race, AIPAC has put in 30 million that is trackable, and there's another 30 million that is not trackable, that is almost certainly the Israeli lobby. So that's 60 million in this race. She had 20 million earlier. She might have gotten an astounding, record-breaking $80 million from the Israeli lobby. To be fair, if somebody gave me $80 million, they might come to me in my dreams too.
There is no amount of money I could ever get from the Israel lobby to get me to support Israel, literally. I could be destitute, I wouldn't take the money. I just couldn't. Anyway, let's get back to the story, the topic at hand. So now the debate just took place between Dr. Abdul El-Sayed and Haley Stevens. This is the Democratic primary for Michigan Senate seat. And according to the audience, it looks like El-Sayed hammered Stevens. So according to local media to Detroit, which hosted the debate and then polled their audience after, who won the debate? Only 5% said that Haley Stevens did, 95% said that El-Sayed did.
And so this is what's amazing. Look, this is a part of the story here, because without the media's help, Haley Stevens would have a 0% chance of winning, okay? But I read the New York Times description of the debate, and you could tell from even their description that it was like begrudgingly that clear that Abdul El-Sayed had crushed her. But instead of saying that, they said that Abdul El-Sayed was a smooth talker.
Oh, a smooth operator.
Okay, so you take his strength of being excellent at debating and being right about the issues, and you turn it into an insult, a smooth talker. And they said that he attacked not Israel, but the Jewish state.
Come on.
Framing it as like, oh, here's a smooth talker, anti-Semite attacking poor Haley Stevens, who's only gotten $30 to $80 million from the Israeli lobby. I mean, so the bias of national media is astounding and over the top.
I mean, in this case, it's local media. So
no, local media has them winning when they actually ask their readers. They're 95-5. But when you read the New York Times,
got it. You're juxtaposing the coverage. Got it.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so with that in mind, let's actually get into the substance of the debate. And since it was carried on local news, we are unable to show you clips. We're just going to have to give you summaries, and they're worthy of talking about. So we'll summarize their pitch to Michigan voters with one brief quote from their opening statements. So El Sayed, what did he say? The race is about you deserving a politics that's not bought off by the same corporations picking your pocket at every single turn. I'm looking forward to the conversation about how we get money out of politics.
Teach it.
Put money in your pockets.
Preach it.
And pass Medicare for all.
You're here.
So Stevens had a bit of a different opening statement. She said, Michigan deserves a senator who can win and who can deliver. I am the only one on this stage who has flipped a Republican seat, and I was named Michigan's most effective Democratic lawmaker in Congress because my only focus is you. So there's no specified policy proposal there, nothing about her values. It's more of the same corporate Democrat nonsense about like, you have to vote for me because I'm the only one who can win.
Yeah, just like Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris. How many times have we heard this garbage when a populace is much more likely to win that race than an establishment clown who takes nothing but corporate PAC money and foreign government money? And she's like, oh, and other Democratic lawmakers in Congress like me more. Well, of course they do, because they're nearly as corrupt as you are. I mean, to be fair, you're probably the most corrupt in Congress. That's probably why you won the award. So Stevens also resorted to personal attacks on El Sayed while claiming that she's the most electable candidate. Now, look, I'm biased because I'm known to maybe do personal attacks here and there. Yes, but there's also substance to my arguments. I don't just like use ad hominems and that's it, but sometimes you gotta call a moron a moron. But in this case, no substance, just personal attacks. So she says Abdul is running for celebrity. Republicans are propping up his campaign. What? Yeah, totally. I mean, there are Republicans lined up around the block to share their talking points about how much they want Abdul El Sayed to win the Democratic primary for the Michigan Senate seat. If that was true, he would get $60 million in funding instead of you. Second of all, if you mean Republican voters are propping him up, well, that means he's more likely to win the general election.
Fair.
So which one is it?
So she says, this isn't about the DC or New York influencer crowd. This is about putting Michigan first, and I've got the receipts to do that, which is why Governor Whitmer, Gretchen Whitmer, and so many others are joining my campaign to win in November.
No, they're joining your campaign because they also got money from the Israeli lobby.
Remember when Gretchen Whitmer visited Trump in the White House soon after he got elected for his second term, and she was so terrified of being photographed in the meeting and like literally did this with a binder?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's who Gretchen Whitmer is. So I don't know if it's really.
And by the way, throughout this campaign, she was doing this until the Israeli lobby was like, hey, we need you to get out from, and she's like, I love Israel.
Give me another 10 mil.
I'll vote for Haley Stevens.
All right, so she also says, my opponent is on these big podcasts. He's running a podcast himself. These folks are making fun of the way I sound, but yet I sound like the people who need help.
Well, that's true, you do need help. You do sound like it.
Who are talking to me about what they need done. Sounds like she's a little jelly about the podcast crowd.
It's just real quick there again. So she's trying to take every advantage that he has and turn it into a negative, just like the New York Times did. He's great at making a case for his voters. He's a smooth talker. In her case, she's like, oh, he does all these podcasts. Why does he do the podcasts? So he can actually convince people to vote for the Democratic Party, to vote for him, to win them over, right? She doesn't do any podcasts or interviews because she can't defend her positions. The minute they ask her, wait, it looks like you're totally bribed by a foreign government, she has no answer, so she hides in a cave and she's like, oh yeah, he's doing all these podcasts and he's like a celebrity. No, he's answering people's questions and you aren't.
Does that mean that he'd have a better chance at winning a Senate seat?
Exactly, you know what? If you do a ton of interviews, that's called free media. That is worth millions of dollars. It's much better than the ads because you're inside the content. But Haley Stevens can't defend a single position she has.
I don't even
That's why she never does any interviews. Instead, she gets money from the Israeli lobby and runs all those ads.
She says, I know it's great to host rallies and have
With
these
people.
Yeah, and have these fun events, but everywhere I have gone in Michigan, I have taken the time to visit a minority-owned.
No, yeah. So, okay, if you didn't see our earlier coverage of this, AIPAC doesn't run ads saying, if you love Israel, vote for Haley Stevens, because then she'd get like 2% of the vote, right? Instead, they run ads saying, Abdul is fill in the blank, sexist, racist, blah, 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 right? And one of the main ads that they're running is Barack Obama from 8 years ago on some random issue saying, hey, Haley Stevens did a good job on that, whether she did or didn't.
I've seen it, it's so funny.
Right,
yeah.
So, and they're running that in in heavily black districts. Obama's on Haley Stevens' side. Obama's on Haley Stevens' side. And you know what? I secretly, I mean, we have no proof of this and you can't see me in public, but I'm secretly meeting with minority-owned businesses. Okay, if you say so, but all of that is to say, please, black people, be tricked into voting for me.
I feel like she is real envious of how popular he is. Like, you're giving him grief over hosting rallies during a political campaign? Aren't you supposed to do that? And doing interviews? You're supposed to do that, right?
You're supposed to interact with the people. You're supposed to tell them what your positions are. And she's somehow trying to make it a negative. Look, if the money was reversed, he's now being outspent. It was 20-1, now it's closer to 40-1,
Jeez.
Okay? Imagine if that was reversed. This election would be 90-10. It wouldn't even be close.
So, by the way, Stevens did keep bringing up the fact that she was endorsed by Gretchen Whitmer throughout the debate. And at one point, she did concede that El Sayed is a great guy and a great father.
Oh.
But about 2 sentences later, she tried to insinuate that he has a record of, it's the favorite for the corporate Democrats, attacking women.
It's a 100% lie.
Yeah.
The AIPAC ran an ad like that, 4 different points, each one of them utterly debunked, but they don't care if it's true. Because politics isn't about what's true. Why do you think money in politics matters so much? Because it creates the ads that lie to the voters to try to get them to vote for the wrong person on purpose. And here's this person, and she is pretending to be aggrieved because Abdul El-Sayed called Fetterman an ogre. Way to go, brother. Totally right.
Based?
Yeah.
What are we supposed to say he's a supermodel?
Right. No. And he's referring to his policies, et cetera. But I don't care either way. Yeah. She then pretends that he's calling her an ogre. And she says, oh, I'm taking so much offense at these attacks. They're personal attacks. And then she's like, he's a sexist, he's a racist, he's a podcaster, he's a celebrity. Everything's a personal attack. What's wrong with his positions? Tell us why we need to go die for Israel in this war. Tell us why we need to give Israel another $300 billion. Tell us why we need to have the drug companies be so powerful that we can't even negotiate drug prices, that we killed off the free markets to help your donors. Well, you can't make any of those cases. So that's why you pretend to be aggrieved, but you actually do the personal attacks. And she knows that the New York Times and all the national, and Jake Tapper, and this is literal, every time Abdul goes on CNN, they viciously attack him with nothing but smears. She knows the national media is gonna be 100% on her side, and they're gonna pick up the ball and run with that same exact talking points.
Okay, they are gonna do that. And so my question is, when the Democratic establishment inevitably does to El Sayed what they did to Grant Plattner, is everyone just gonna believe it with no evidence?
Yeah,
because it's gonna happen.
No, but it's
gonna happen. So are you just gonna believe it and immediately be worried about self-preservation and be like, I'm sorry, okay. I mean, what happened to Plattner was disgusting.
So look, there's 2 different things. There's getting targeted, and then there's, did you do something wrong or not? If they dug enough, could you find something? A lot of people now believe that Plattner did do something, that they dug enough to find something wrong that he did. Whether you believe that or you don't believe that, at this point is immaterial because he's out of the race, right? But the part that's important is, if you're Haley Stevens, the national media never digs in. They don't even scratch the surface. They don't even say, oh, by the way, she's taken $80 million from a foreign government's lobby. That should be a note of concern.
Right.
They never add, it should be a note of concern, right? So not even scratching the surface. But with Abdul, they're digging and digging and digging. But the good news is they found nothing. And then AIPAC's running the ads anyway.
No, but that's the thing, Cenk. What's gonna stop? They found nothing, okay, but what's gonna stop them from just making things up?
Yeah, well, they did.
What's gonna stop them from just making things up, hitting up a political reporter who, in a very misleading way, writes about a story about that gives the reader the impression that a rape victim reached out to her therapist at the time that she was allegedly raped. That's the way that it was written. It gave you that false impression.
No, I know. No matter what you think of Graham Plattner and what he might or might not have done, that was a hatchet job because the political reporter literally hid the text that he had saying that where she asked him for a butt massage. Okay, and you could have any opinion you want about that, right? Like saying oh, who cares, right? But the reporter hiding that shows you the reporter is not objective. The point of that article and the article before that, where the New York Times talked to 12 different girlfriends, only found one that had done anything, that was complaining, and she was a GOP operative. Again, it's not to go back into that issue. It's to show you there is no question that if you oppose Israel or corporate donors, mainstream media will try to eliminate you. They'll try to assassinate your character. And people like Haley Stevens depend on that.
Yes.
Because if you're talking about the issues, there's no chance Haley Stevens or Susan Collins is gonna win. The only way they could win is if they have tens of millions of dollars from the lobbies, whether it's AIPAC or Big Pharma, et cetera, and have the entire national media on their side.
Right. Okay, so let's get to what El-Sayed had to say during the context of this debate. He said, just this past week, our friend here voted to send $3.3 billion of your tax dollars to a foreign government. That is the status quo, I guess.
Pro quo. That comes with a quid of $30 million spent by AIPAC, meaning that's your quid pro quo.
Yeah, and by the way, that's exactly right.
And by the way, again, this is why I get so frustrated. This is such an excellent case of the national media being preposterous liars and covering for Israel and every donor, but particularly Israel in this case. You're telling me that the Israeli lobby spent at a minimum $30 million in this race for the benefit of Americans, Norwegians, our healthcare? No, they spent that money to buy the seat for Israel.
Right.
If any person with any common sense knows that, you're telling me all of the national media reporters couldn't piece that together? I wonder why the Israeli lobby is spending all this money. I can't quite figure it out. Is it for knitting? Is it for race car driving? I can't tell, because I'm a reporter and I'm the biggest idiot in the country. They're doing it to buy the seat for Israel. Super obvious, literally the most obvious thing in the world, yet not one national media reporter figured it out. Come on.
He says, if you really want to beat Mike Rogers, find the candidate who is electable without having to ask for a $60 million crutch to do it.
Damn.
I like that line. I like that line a lot.
Yeah.
So Stevens did dodge numerous questions. When confronted about previous votes and statements in support of ICE, she declined to give any substantive answer. I should note El-Sayed wants to abolish ICE. And I don't know how Michigan voters feel about that, but juxtaposing the two on that issue, obviously they're very different. Haley Stevens also refused to give a straight answer when asked about voters' concerns regarding the huge volume of outside spending in this race. And when it comes to the Middle East, Stevens really didn't get specific. She loves to give vague answers and only said that she wants lasting peace and a two-state solution, knowing full well that Israel is 100% against a two-state solution. They do not believe in Palestinian statehood. And in fact, Naftali Bennett, who's running against Netanyahu to be the next prime minister of Israel, just gave an interview where he said, I'm not giving up any territory. I do not believe in a Palestinian state. So that is Israel. That is their culture. That is what they believe. She is funded by pro-Israel interests. So this whole I believe in a two-state solution thing that we hear from corporate Democrats, they love to regurgitate that. They don't actually mean it. And it's important for you to know that.
I can actually prove it empirically and definitively for you. She was literally picked by AIPAC to defeat the idea of a two-state solution, which Representative Andy Levin had suggested.
Amazing.
So like the whole point of her existence in Congress is to make sure a two-state solution doesn't happen. Okay, so that is, her lies are record-breaking. And one last thing about the media. When I ran for Congress, all of my money was small dollar donors, right? Didn't take any PAC money at all. And people sending in 5, 10, 20 bucks from across the country, but a lot of people did, right? The national media wrote about that is outside money. Not a lot of it is coming from outside of California. And they wrote article after article about that. Here, and it was nowhere near this amount, right? Here's $60 million coming from outside Michigan to buy this election. They're like, I don't see it. I can't see it at all. What am I, a reporter? No, I don't see the money. It's absurd. It's preposterous. So by the way, we're asking you guys, because after all this, $60 million and the entire national media versus a great candidate who's standing up for the people. It's a close election. It's 50-50. We don't know who's gonna win, okay? So we're asking you guys on tyt.com, who do you think is going to win the Michigan Senate race? A, Israel, B, America. Okay, so there is no question that Haley Stevens is the candidate for Israel and Abdul El-Sayed is the candidate for America. So, but we don't know who's gonna win right now.
Yeah, no idea. Anyway, we got to take a break. When we come back, we're not done with the Democratic Party yet because the DNC is broke. They are in debt. They're falling for phishing scams. I mean, it is a mess of epic proportions. And I want to give you the deets. Don't miss it.
All right, we're also on X these days, so I'm gonna read a couple comments from there. Abedijor Vioba wrote in, good day, my divine feminine goddess, Anna, worship my manpower. Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right.
By the way, everyone's got the divine feminine within them. Divine feminine doesn't mean that you're feminine. It just means that there's a certain type of power that you wield.
Okay, God bless. Okay, yeah. I'm in favor of that power. Okay, BCDP says, Israel's destroying our country and the world by using our country and president, a lot of our military because they have videos of Trump with children. And I softened that one up. All right, let's go to Super Chat. James Kelly says, did you guys see the walkway interview with Stevens? I just wanted to shout out to the guy that said he wanted to vote for human rights. It's funny that Stevens donors are trying to get the African-American vote while treating Palestinians like African-Americans during the Reconstruction era. James, that is a brilliant point. That is exactly right. And whenever the Palestinians say we're being abused, just like during Reconstruction, racists said to black people, we don't believe you. Why don't you shut up, right? That's exactly what our disgustingly racist media says to Palestinians. We don't believe you, you don't count, why don't you shut up? Genome Exploits says the graphene continues to replicate in the body today into one's organs. These I'm reading these blind. 5 gram and 8 gram towers that were put up during lockdowns was deliberate. Okay, I'm not sure I know what that means, but. All right, back on TYT. So first of all, guys, as we've told you many times before, because it's so true, we are besieged here at TYT. So if you can help either by becoming a member, and you do get a couple of months off if you join through tyt.com/join for annual membership. You also get our interaction with you guys and reading your comments during the ad breaks if you're a member through tyt.com/join. That would be incredibly helpful. But also just ring the bell on YouTube, and that also helps the show. So we appreciate all of you. All right, now let's go to the next story. Donald Trump's in a lot of trouble. His economic numbers are disastrous, and the war in Iran is going terribly. So here comes the Democrats to the rescue. they have somehow found a way to be as unpopular as the Republicans. And this story we're about to tell you about the DNC shows you some of the reasons why. I think it's actually complicated. I'm going to show you both sides of this story. But first, let's look at the incompetence.
Boo, don't both sides it, boo. Okay, all right, I'm kidding. It's good, fairness is good. The Dems are a nightmare, and I'm just talking about the establishment under the leadership of a specific person who seems to be struggling, to say the least. So, as Dems stare down what should be a very easy victory in the 2026 midterms, there have been some major questions about the party's leadership. So the party has hemorrhaged so much money that the Democratic National Committee put its physical headquarters up for collateral last year in order to obtain a $15 million line of credit to help invest in off-year elections. And that's according to DC deed records not previously reported. A majority of this criticism lands at the feet of the DNC chair, Ken Martin. In fact, confidence in Martin's leadership has been shaky ever since it was reported that he literally cried on a private Zoom call with David Hogg, who suggested that the DNC primary the do-nothing Democrats, God forbid. Now, later, according to the New York Times, trust in Martin among donors and party officials was sapped by his handling of a long-promised autopsy of the 2024 election. We all remember that, right? So late last year, he said he would not release the document, but as criticism mounted, he relented in May and released an incomplete draft that featured searing annotations from the DNC that undermined the report. And then after a disastrous appearance on Pod Save America to discuss the autopsy itself, Martin has basically been keeping a low profile, which is true. Like, I haven't really noticed much reporting about Ken Martin until very recently when we learned about how much debt the DNC is in and how he has lost support. People don't really feel much confidence in his leadership. So according to sources close to the Democratic National Committee, he has grown increasingly paranoid that he might be ousted from his current position, which he was elected to hold all the way through 2029. Now, earlier this month, Martin hit a breaking point and threw a phone at a junior aide.
No, not at the aide, at the table by the aide.
Okay, so look, you and I are both known to be hot-blooded, okay? And I don't apologize for that, okay? I'm a passionate woman. However, I would never, it wouldn't even cross my mind to grab any object and throw it anywhere in a professional setting, in a place of work. Like, can these people please stop doing this? Whether it's Amy Klobuchar, like, don't throw your phone.
Nah, this is one of my defenses of him. There are people, and overall, he has not been good. So don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to buck him up. I'm just trying to be honest with you guys. That place is leaking like a sieve. Every potential slightly negative thing about him immediately gets into the papers. There are clearly opponents inside the DNC. By the way, they're not progressives, they're establishment people, okay? They want someone even more pro-corporate, more establishment, and they're trying to get every piece of dirt to the press, and the press is eating it up, okay? So keep that in mind. It doesn't mean he's doing a good job. We'll tell you all the things he's doing actually wrong in a second. But when I read a story, it becomes obvious that there's an attempt at getting a guy. So later in the story, they clarify he didn't throw the phone at the guy. He threw the phone down, and then it got painted as throwing a phone in a general direction. So when I see that, I go, oh, wait a minute, we got a bias here, right? So,
okay, fair.
Like, I just ignore the phone thing. I think it's totally BS.
Okay, fair. And look, I have in my notes that it has been disputed how aggressively that whole situation played out. I don't even care. You're right. I don't care. But I just think it's a bad idea to grab any object and manipulate it in an aggressive fashion when you're in the middle of a conflict, okay?
If that's what happened.
If that's what happened. Okay, so moving off of that, because I think brazen mishandling of the funds the DNC had is telling. So in expressing his concerns to staff and basically bemoaning the sheer amount of leaks that are coming out from his office, Martin said, quote, "My success is your success. So the weaker I am, the weaker all of you are." But donors are concerned, and those concerns are not just limited to Martin's behavior. So now we get into the finances of the Democratic Party. Total disaster. These people, I mean, it's just like it feels like politics has increasingly become a money laundering scheme, but
oh, definitely.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, so let me give you the details on this. The Democratic Party and its allies are far behind Republicans when it comes to money. Trump controls a $400 million super PAC, and the Republican National Committee is sitting on nearly $130 million. Martin's DNC is $2 million in debt. So let me just remind you all that in the last presidential election, Kamala Harris outraised Trump by a lot. Okay, so she had raised $1.5 billion, which, I mean, it's hard to even fathom the amount of money, but she ended her campaign in debt. So she wasn't even able to provide, leftover funds to the Democratic National Committee. I think her campaign was $20 million in debt. Anyway, fast forward to today, and you're dealing with the Democratic National Committee that's $2 million in debt, whereas the Republicans have obviously raised a lot more money. Now, I give you that example of Kamala Harris outraising Trump because I don't want anyone to be under the impression that well, yeah, of course, Republicans have a much easier time raising money because they're greedy and corporations love them and they fund them. No. Corporate interests fund both parties. They want both parties to be their cattle, okay, to serve them as opposed to the people. So, I mean, Democrats haven't had a hard time raising money. It's just that they spend money on consultants that give them really bad advice so they can lose elections, okay?
Yeah. See, there's so much nuance in this story because the Democrats are not having as much trouble raising for their congressional arms, the House re-election committees and the Senate re-election committees. And why is that? It gets to the core of the problem with the DNC, which is they haven't made up their mind. Are they grassroots or are they corporate, right? Like they've been acting corporate all throughout, but they apparently, like the big super PACs, et cetera, and the corporate PACs are still a little displeased because they're not exactly sure which way the DNC is going to go. Whereas they are giving a lot to Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer because they know that those guys are going to serve them.
100%.
So it's an ironic kind of complaint against the DNC that the PACs aren't giving them as much money because they're not as sure that the DNC is corrupt. Whereas they can take Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer's corruption to the bank.
100%.
And in fact, you saw Hakeem Jeffries just found just enough votes to get Israel the vote that they needed on the National Defense Authorization Act and the merging of our military technologies.
Yeah, 6 Democrats voted in favor of merging our military with the IDF. So that was in the House vote.
Yeah, and they needed that number, otherwise that vote would have lost. The Democrats would have won, and Democrats. But the Democratic leadership is so corrupt, they make sure that they lose each one of those votes. So this article should be written about them and how incompetent not incompetent, honestly, on the other side. They're not even Democrats, they're lying to you.
They're corrupt, absolutely. Also, new financial reports released this week revealed the depth of the DNC's financial hole. The party is $2 million in debt while I read that already, my bad. So, no, I didn't read that. $2 million in debt while the Republican National Committee has $128.5 million in cash on hand. The party that holds the White House almost always raises more money into its coffers, but this year's chasm is extraordinarily large. At least that was how the New York Times framed it. Now, DNC financing is not just for the midterms, but are also used to kind of lay the foundation for the 2028 presidential election. And in a panicked meeting with Senator Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries from the House of Representatives, of course, to combat the dwindling financing, basically, this is what happened. Inside the room, Martin described a proposal in which much of the cash raised through this mega committee, which would include state parties nationwide, would be routed first through his committee before being distributed to the congressional party arms. I hate all of this, and Cenk will decode it all for us in just a second, okay? At least some involved saw the move as a bid to inflate the fundraising figures of Martin's struggling committee and to take credit for cash transfers he could not otherwise afford. So how did the DNC even get into this devastating position to begin with? Why are they in debt? What's going on here? Well, the answer actually lies in the overall mishandling of the 2024 election. As the New York Times points out, some of the problems are a hangover from 2024. While Vice President Kamala Harris raised record sums that year, her loss left many big Democratic donors disillusioned with the party. Her campaign has also had millions in debt that the DNC spent much of last year paying off with Harris's help. That was $20 million in debt, by the way. And the single biggest expense in the Martin era was $7.3 million to buy the remnants of Harris's campaign list from her failed 2024 bid. Harris's Political Action Committee used the money to cover additional remaining debts. $7.3 million for a list.
Yeah, so they raise off that list, and so maybe you could make your money back off of the money, off of a giant list like that. So I know how the mechanics of that works. But guys, so this was a surprisingly balanced story out of the New York Times. So let me give you the things they explained that were in favor of Ken Martin. Then I want to get to my main criticism of him. Okay, so number one, they explained they've actually raised more than they did in 2018. So wait, what's the whole point of this article then? Well, they say, well, we're not sure where the money went. Well, no, you explain where the money went. It went to Kamala Harris's old campaign. And so that was certainly a huge part of it. And so should they have done that? I don't know, maybe they shouldn't have, and they probably put a lot of pressure on him. Maybe that was Kamala Harris's problem and not the current Democratic voters' problem, right? So it's not, the fundraising is less of a problem than the expenses, apparently according to that fact, but there are other facts in Ken Martin's direction. When he was the head of the Democrats in Minnesota, they did not lose a statewide election for 14 years, and the New York Times explains all this, okay? So that's a pretty impressive record. He has been empowering the state parties, and as progressives, we wanted state parties to be empowered, including red states. So he's not giving up on the red states. In fact, in Mississippi, the Republicans had a supermajority, but Ken Martin put money in to try to change that, and it worked. And now the Republicans don't have a supermajority in the Mississippi state legislature anymore. So he has done some positive things that should be noted if we're being honest about this conversation. Now to the main criticisms. There's little smaller things like, yeah, they're combining the party's fundraising accounting to make it look like they raised more money. That's kind of cheesy. It's a relatively small thing, but still cheesy. But he's got to make up his mind. Brother, are you gonna raise from the grassroots? And if you do that, by the way, Bernie has raised what, over $250 million in 2 different presidential elections. It's not like you can't do that. AOC is a fundraising machine.
You just have to have a message.
And you have to actually believe it, and you have to fight for it. Or are you going to be a weaker corporate PAC entity than the Democrats in the House and the Senate? In which case you're not going to raise that much money. He's half jumping off a cliff, and that's a terrible idea. And honestly, he's being super weak. He's constantly worried about like, oh, are they out to get me? Who's gonna get me? What am I gonna do? How do I appease that? How do I appease that? Right, both sides. Brother, you can't appease both sides. You've gotta make a decision and you've gotta act strong. And if you go try to inch over to the corporate PAC side, they're just gonna crush you, and they're gonna write articles generally framed as you're incompetent, etc. And if you're not raising enough money, and you haven't gone grassroots, they're gonna have a case.
Yeah.
And then eventually they'll replace you, and they'll bring in a guy who's even more establishment, more in favor of corporate PACs and corruption.
More obsessed with losing, really.
Yeah, so if I'm counseling him, which I'm not, but if I was, I'd tell him, look man, buck up. Let's go, make a decision. And if you're gonna be a corporate stooge, just be a corporate stooge. It's not gonna break our heart. It's the DNC. It's been run by corporate stooges my whole life, right? And then we're done with you, but the corporate PACs will give you more money, and that's a decision that a direction you can go. Or lean into the people and have the cojones to fight against the Chuck Schumers and the Hakeem Jeffries and the rest of the corrupt Democrats and go, no, we're gonna support our voters. And not only are we gonna raise more money that way, but on top of that, we're actually gonna give people something to vote for and to be excited about.
Yep.
Can you imagine having a DNC that's honest and on our side?
I actually can't.
I know, I was gonna say, it's actually unimaginable.
I've never experienced it.
But if you went in that direction, even if they eliminated you, you would have done something heroic And instead of this waffling, wishy-washy nonsense, that's getting you hammered anyway.
Yeah, it's total beta energy. We don't want that. Anyway, we got to take a break. When we come back, a shocking story involving a declaration by Alex Jones of all people. The story just broke. I really want to share it with you all, so come right back.
Back on TYT, so many stories, comments to get to. Eclectic writes in on our member section on TYT.com. Whatever you think about whether or not we should continue militarily to support Ukraine, which I have conflicted feelings about, I think we can all agree that them attacking Iran does absolutely no good and only risks to widen the war.
I agree.
Couldn't agree
I'm
more.
right there with you.
Yeah, it's a great way of putting it. Wang Jun said, never ever underestimate the creative problem-solving skills of South American drug traffickers.
I mean,
that's
honestly,
true. Yes.
That tracks, yes.
Yes. So I'm reading this one blind. Let's see what happens. Biohazard Dragon says, Anna, I'm a microbiologist and a researcher. Some scientists work for weapons developers or their science is used for weapons against their will. But the majority do gain of function research for multiple reasons. Viruses mutate quickly and we need to know the product in order to create a vaccine/treatment. The products can be used therapeutically. The virus can be used to infect cells and produce medicinal products. Having said that, that specific lab should be shut down.
Yes.
And if investigations find it was on purpose, they should be incarcerated.
Thank you for that context. I do appreciate it. And I appreciate your fairness and nuance in giving me that information. Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right. Mr. Guapo writes in, gee, interesting pharma fire drill, Dr. Fauci. That was a large test group. Yes, we passed after all. Okay, Karen Nola says, Haley Stephen constantly grins like the greenback grabber she's always been. Go Abdul. That's the first time I've heard of greenback grabber.
What does that mean?
Grab the money, I think.
I like that.
Haley Stevens goes to a taco truck. I visited a minority-owned business.
I like tacos.
All right, we'll be back. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna. We got to get to another story. Otherwise, I would have loved to. All right, I'll read one comment in the Operation Joy because it was so smart for one of our members. All right, Anna, what's the next story?
This is pretty big, Cenk. Let's get to it. So, Alex Jones has just announced that he believes President Donald Trump should be impeached over the Iran war. Now, this was a lengthy rant that he posted on X. This just broke, so we didn't have enough time to grab the video, but I'm going to read exactly what he said in it. So this is something he put out to his nearly 4 million followers, and he accused Trump of trying to bring back the national draft ahead of a full-scale ground invasion into Iran. He went on to say that Trump will use total war to take our freedoms, nationalize everything, and push us aside with artificial intelligence, total liability, immunity, and protection. Now, I'm gonna read you verbatim what he said in making the argument or the case in favor of impeaching Donald Trump. And so I'm calling for it right now, 25th Amendment, impeachment, whatever needs to happen to get this front and center, to get control of our country. It's impeachable alone that the president's supporting the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, which of course includes that provision merging the US military with the terrorist IDF. I agree with Tucker Carlson and all of the people who voted against this, the mergers of the foreign military. It actually says it in section 219, clear as day. Need to be Nuremberg-style trials. I mean, this is unbelievable. You know, I gotta say, there's more. I'm gonna read it in just a second, but Alex Jones has been like looking better, if that makes any sense, like looking a little healthier. And I don't know. I just feel like he's been saying a few things lately. I don't agree with everything he says. Please don't.
Of course.
Please don't. Like, But let me be fair to him. He has been saying a few things, especially as it pertains to the surveillance state, as it pertains to our conflicts abroad, the wars that we've been engaging in, for endless support of Israel. He has been speaking out against that pretty consistently.
So I'm gonna note two things here. First, this is kind of amazing because we just had the 10-year anniversary of our fight, me and Alex Jones. But remember what that fight was about. It was at the RNC. It was the night that Donald Trump was giving his acceptance speech. And Alex Jones had come onto our set to make a case that Trump was amazing and great. And we were totally wrong about Trump, right? And then we got into that kerfuffle, let's say. Okay, now 10 years later, I nearly wore my 25th Amendment t-shirt today. He's talking about the 25th Amendment. We didn't go to his position. He came to our position.
Well, he realized that Trump is a fraud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now I'll give him credit. This isn't like a ha-ha, okay, we won, you lost, we were right, you were wrong. No, for a minute there in this term, Alex Jones was still trying to defend the war and Israel and all this stuff, and he was looking like a total hypocrite and utterly fraudulent. And we were pointing it out with a little bit of glee, like, what happened, Mr. The government,
the deep state,
etc. I'll take my shirt off. Right? But here he is actually going back to whatever his principles are. And you could disagree with his facts, and by God have we in the past, and we will continue to, right? When it's called upon. But he did return to principles, and that is something that you have to give credit for. Saying, no, I am against big government, I am against the surveillance state, I am for America and not for other countries. Anybody who does that, I say, all right, credit where credit is due.
He also said, and if you think it's crazy now, imagine what's coming with this. They want us in a total war so they can censor and take our freedoms, nationalize everything, and push us aside with AI, total liability, immunity, and protection. This is a disaster. We are facing tyranny, but the public's awakening. We've got to come together and transcend left and right, and we have to say no to an expanded war that will definitely destroy the economy and kill a bunch of our troops. They're preparing a massive ground invasion. It's all confirmed. This is going down right now. Rex, I'm guessing that's his co-host, I don't know. Rex, what do you think we should do to spotlight this? I'll tell listeners, we're live right now. Share this live feed. We're gonna cut all this up, breaking. Alex Jones calls for impeachment of President Trump for attempting to re-implement the national draft and launch a total ground invasion of Iran. Americans left and right must come together now and demand Congress invoke the war powers and end this war now.
So why is he saying this now? Like, he's been turning on Trump for all of these reasons. It's not just overnight, right? And we've covered that as well. But apparently we had a straw that broke the camel's back. And so remember, earlier in the show, we reported, also breaking news, that Netanyahu came out of his meeting with Trump, his 7th or 8th one, and said that this was their best meeting ever, and he's ecstatic about how things have gone.
Yeah.
Trump has been saying publicly, we've got a big attack we can do and we're thinking about doing, right? If Netanyahu is ecstatic, then that probably means that that attack is coming. And so, and about the ground invasion, is that just conspiratorial talk? Because it's not like Alex Jones isn't capable of that. He's very capable of that. Or does he have access to information? Well, he is on the right, and he does have more sources on the right.
Yeah.
So it's not inconceivable that is actually coming from sources. And within the context that we can see with our own eyes, it seems to match the fact pattern of, there is a massive attack and ground invasion coming. And that is what's causing Alex Jones to go, no, that said, I'm totally done with him and he should be impeached.
So this is my speculation, take it with a grain of salt, but I have to get this out. I've been noticing that Piers Morgan has been repeatedly kind of like excoriating Trump because he is certain that we're gonna go back to war against Iran. I mean, we're still at war with Iran, but we stopped the bombing. He seems to think there's going to be a major escalation, and he keeps repeating that. And remember, he can't stop himself from talking about how he and Trump talk on the phone.
And our friends.
So I'm wondering if Piers Morgan might know something that we don't know. I have no idea, because I'm like, why do you think that there's 100% definitely gonna be a huge escalation in this war? Where are you getting that info from?
Yeah, so we don't have access to that information, so we can't tell you either way. But it is concerning that people who might have access to that information are all waving giant red flags. Watch out, a bigger escalation of the war is coming. And remember, we told you Ukraine attacked Iran,
yes,
expanding the war. Lindsey Graham's last act was sanctions against China and India because they're buying from Russia.
Yeah.
So that expands the war even more. The Houthis and the Saudis are involved. And you know what? I'm actually gonna read a quote from one of our members because it's so relevant to this. No Math Dragon on Twitch said, I'm still trying to figure out how Ukraine found out about an Iranian ship in the Caspian Sea. Ukraine is several hundred miles from the Caspian Sea. That was some great shooting. That's such a smart point. Because how in the world did they get that intelligence? They got it from Israel, right? So Israel is expanding the war, Netanyahu is ecstatic, and even Trump's biggest allies, people who are literally willing to fight me physically over supporting Trump, are now saying impeach him.
Yeah.
So this is an amazing turn of events.
It is, and I'm glad that when it comes to these types of issues, Alex Jones has decided to go back to his principles. These are the right principles to have. And by the way, the surveillance state is real and it is coming for us. All right, Operation Joy is next. We're gonna talk about the Galapagos. That's what we're gonna do, don't miss it.
You are a snake. You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in. Snake. You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian with you guys. Now for the uninitiated, we do something very different and interesting on Tuesdays. After the show, we do Operation Joy, where we try to spread a little bit of joy in the world. So sometimes we talk about different ideas that could make you a little bit happier, and oftentimes gratified when people come back and say, hey, it worked a little bit. And we've got some of those stories for you later in this episode, okay? And I love those, and I want to come to those in a second. But we're gonna do something from my life that I wanted to share with you guys. So I was away last week, and where did I go? I went to the Galapagos Islands. And so for me, as a person who is not religious and who is an enormous believer in science, evolution, Charles Darwin, Galapagos is sacred ground to me. And to me, there's two sacred grounds, if I'm being honest. There's Galapagos and Cambridge. Why randomly Cambridge? Although now I'm banned from Cambridge, so because I'm banned from the UK, so that's kind of ironic and sad. But
so is freedom, apparently.
Yeah, Charles Darwin, Isaac Newton, Stephen Hawking, among many others, right? Mm-hmm. So that's where the giants walked. And so, but Darwin, of course, partly discovered the theory of evolution at the Galapagos Islands. So I've always wanted to go there, and this year we had an opportunity to go, so I took it. Not overly easy to get there or get back, but we soldiered through that and got there. And I wanted to share some of it with you guys because I was full of wonder about it, and it gave me tremendous joy. And like you guys do on this segment at tyt.com/joy, I wanted to share it with you. So I'm going to show you a bunch of pictures, tell you some of the backstories, and then at the end I have amazing videos of mating rituals of the albatross, the blue-footed booby, and actual mating of tortoises. All that we saw and I got on tape as a casual observer there, right?
So when you go to the Galapagos Islands, are there just like wild animals everywhere?
Yes.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So I gotta give credit to Ecuador here. And our tour guides in Ecuador asked us, can you be ambassadors for Ecuador and the Galapagos Islands? And as it turned out, our tour guide Juan Pablo is actually a TYT viewer and subscriber, which is amazing. And I said, sure, yeah, because I loved what I saw here, right? And Ecuador, Galapagos Islands is part of Ecuador now, has done a great job of maintaining those islands and keeping them pristine and making sure that humans don't screw up those incredibly important areas of wildlife, and they've preserved it brilliantly. So tremendous credit to Ecuador. Okay, so let's look at some of the animals and talk it through. I don't know what order we have them in, so just roll it and okay. So this is the blue-footed booby, and this is the animal that I most wanted to see. And it is a funny looking creature, man. I love it. It's trippy. The only place you could find it is in Galapagos. And the reason why its feet are blue is because of the kind of fish it eats and the way that the sun reflects off of the chemicals that creates.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So the fish is what causes the blue.
Yes, and the way the sun reflects off of the chemicals that are in the fish. Okay.
That's pretty cool, because I was thinking maybe it evolved to have some sort of advantage with the blue feet.
So the reason Darwin could tell that evolution was happening was because the islands themselves are separate from each other. So the different animals evolved in slightly different ways. The one that's most famous is the Darwin finches, because they all have slightly different beaks depending on the ecology of that particular island. Do they need a larger beak, a sharper beak, one that could use a tool or not, right? And he tracked all that, and he's like, I don't think God created 20 different finches and put them on all these different islands, and they just happen to match the exact way that would be more beneficial to feed on that particular island. But that's true of so many of the animals. So there's 3 different kinds of boobies. We'll see, let's keep going through the pictures and I'll show you some of the differences. So these are albatrosses.
Oh, albatross boobies, huh?
No, this is not a booby, it's just an albatross.
I was gonna say, damn.
Okay, so I'm gonna show you their mating ritual in a second. But the albatrosses only nest in one of the Galapagos Islands. That is the only place on Earth they nest.
Wow.
Okay, so no matter where they go, they always come back to that same island. They're near extinction, so again, Ecuador, thank you for keeping them alive and making sure that nobody disturbs their mating grounds, okay? And so, and by the way, quick story about the albatross. I always wonder where the story of albatross around your neck come from, that phrase. Turns out it's from a 1798 poem, the Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. And a lot of people mistake the albatross as being bad luck and the albatross around your neck. No, the albatross is actually good luck to sailors. And in that poem, an albatross guides them through an ice patch, but one of the knucklehead sailors kills the albatross. And the rest of the crew is so mad that killing an albatross brings bad luck that they hang it around the sailor's head. And he's got to walk around with the dead carcass of the albatross to punish him for hurting the albatross.
Yeah, that'll show you.
So preserving nature has apparently been a theme in the Galapagos Islands since the 1800s, right? And even the 1700s. Okay, so let's keep going. I also wanted to just show you like some of the amazing nature that was there. It reminded me of like Game of Thrones, some of these. It looks like this is where the Greyjoys live, so it's just gorgeous. Okay, let's keep going. This is the second type of booby. This is a Nazca booby. Okay.
A NASCAR booby?
Nazca. I know, I thought the same thing.
Okay, got it.
NAZCA. Okay. All right, let's keep going. And all right, more of the Great Joy headquarters, or maybe the Sea Snakes headquarters, but I loved it.
Looks amazing.
It is amazing. I could have shown you hundreds of these pictures, but I want to keep it rolling. All right. Now, on the right-hand side, you see the rock with all of the marine iguanas, filled with marine iguanas. In the beginning, it's a little hard to see because they're camouflaged. They're supposed to be camouflaged. And so that's great. And then on the left-hand side, you see the frigate. Okay, the frigate nests on top of these other boulders I'm gonna show you in a second. And it picks off the food of the other birds. It's kind of a dick. Okay.
I like it. Okay.
But we saw them, hovering above us, and then they also have those giant red necks that balloon out. You can't capture it in that picture, but they nest so far up on the hills that you can't get a close enough picture.
Do they like dive into the water and eat fish? Is that why they have those necks?
So a lot of these animals do, including the boobies. So we'd go to these pristine beaches, and the sea lions are hanging out, the marine iguanas are right next to them, the crabs are next to them, and then the boobies are going and diving into the water.
The boobies need protein.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going. It's just more gorgeous Galapagos. And so that's the sea turtle. We did a glass bottom boat. Now this is super cool. Okay, so we do the glass bottom boat. We see the sea turtles in the water. And then on one of the days they say, okay guys, on this one, we're all gonna have to stick together because there might even be sharks, okay? But don't worry, they're not gonna bite you. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, but there's gonna be a lot of things in the water. So you're gonna see some of the coral reef fish, so the colorful fish that you might have seen in other places, right? And we did, beautiful colorful fish. But what was the coolest was the sea turtles and the sea lions were swimming right next to us. So a sea turtle swims right underneath you, okay? And they're gigantic. So you're looking at it, it's looking at you. And then the sea lions are so playful.
They're so cute. Bill, they're sea puppies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they are.
Especially the younger ones, because the younger ones are learning how to hunt through play. So they do all these little tricks. So one of the things they do is they try to scare us. I don't know if they're trying to scare us or they're doing a normal ritual that they do in playing, but I realized after a while they're playing game of chicken. So they were coming straight at you, okay? And the first couple of times, of course, I flinched. I'm like, oh, look, the guy, he's coming right at me. I'm like, is he gonna hit me? And then at the last thing, he goes, okay, and goes right underneath you. And then I eventually realized what was happening. So then that happened dozens of times.
So you're in the water.
You're in the water, they're in the water, we're snorkeling, so you can see it clearly. And they just come and play with you like you're another sea lion. They play a game of chicken, they swim next to you, they jump in it. So some of my pictures had trouble transferring, so I don't know if we have the red-footed booby. But let's keep going through the pictures and I'll tell you the difference between the red-footed and the blue-footed. Okay, so this was super cool. This is a land iguana, okay, which is different than a marine iguana. And as we were there, the day before, they told us they mainly feed off of the fruit of the cactus because the cactus has so much water. And they pick off the needles when the fruit drops and then they eat it. And then coincidentally, as we were next to a cactus, a fruit fell and this dude grabbed it and started chomping on it.
So did you see him take the little spikes out?
Yeah, I asked about that because I didn't see it, right? Okay, and our guide said that one just doesn't look like it has spikes. So it was ripe, it fell, he grabbed it, and then he chomped on it and ate it.
He looks pretty satisfied in that last photo.
Yeah, he's like, So that was amazing to see in person after they had described it to us. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, now we're at the sea lions. So there were so many beaches like the one on the left where they're just chilling and they're all over the beach. I'll tell you something about that beach in a second. And then on the right is a baby milking from a female. Okay.
Okay, got it.
And so what happened on the beach on the left is there was some sea lions, partly because their mom's not around, they're fishing and they're gonna come back in a couple of weeks, or their mom might have died, right? And so they're trying to get in on females that aren't their moms, okay? But the moms can tell from the voice, a little bit from the smell, but mainly from the voice. And so if it's not her kid, she chases it off.
No, be nice.
They can't be nice. That's not how it works. But that's the thing about evolution. It is survival of the fittest.
I know it sucks. Like I mean, in the animal world, it is very vicious.
Oh, we consider it brutal. It's just, of course, a circle of life. But from a human perspective, we're like, oh, help. But to make you feel better, sometimes a mom will lose a kid and a kid will lose a mom, and then they'll adopt one another. Okay, so that does happen.
I like that.
They feed the kids for about a year, and then the sea lions then can exist on their own.
Right.
Okay.
They know how to like hunt for their own food.
Yes, they learn how to hunt, and then they're fine. And then the alpha male in one of the beaches, one of my friends was like, there's another male that's not the alpha male. I thought that couldn't happen, right? The alpha male has a harem, right? And the alpha male comes by and chases the son of a bitch off. He's like, another man was like, all right, and runs away. It's just amazing to see it in person, right?
So are they monogamous? Like, do they like land on one partner and then stay with that partner for life? Or is it like, the males, I shouldn't say men, the males are going around spreading the seed.
Yeah.
Like, how does it work?
No, not at all monogamous. So one alpha male has a harem for at least a season.
Season.
But then it requires a lot of energy to chase off all the other males.
And also to please all the other females.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that brother is busy, okay? If this beach is a rockin', don't come a knockin', okay? So after a while, they get exhausted and they gotta go fish.
Yeah.
And then another male comes in and another alpha male takes over. And so it rotates like that. And the females are not monogamous either. Whoever's the alpha male, they go with them. So, but they did explain the different animals have different levels of monogamy. So it appears that the boobies are monogamous. So all the wives are like, oh. Then they clarified they're socially monogamous, but sexually, when the male takes his turn going to get food for the chick,
right?
The female will oftentimes mess around with the neighborhood blue-footed boobies.
Wow.
Okay, and in fact, that happens 53% of the time. That's why the male boobies then oftentimes will prance around the female boobie, going to scare off the other males. Like I'm gonna go fishing, but don't you guys come in here trying to mess with my lady, okay?
And this is seen in all boobies, or is it just the blue-footed boobies, red-footed boobies?
I think we learned about the blue-footed boobie in particular on the monogamy, but I think it's all the boobies.
Okay.
The most monogamous of all of them is the albatross. They mate for life, and they're socially monogamous and largely sexually monogamous. Almost no animal is purely sexually monogamous.
So, is it because they're almost extinct and there aren't that many options?
So the reason why they do monogamy, there's evolutionary reasons for it. Like, of course, they're not thinking of it in terms of morality. That's a human thing, right? So the boobies only have one egg per year. So they really need a pair to go fishing, come back, go fishing, come back, right? To protect the egg. If you don't protect the egg, it's not gonna make it. And they put a lot of time and energy into one egg. So they gotta make sure that team survives together.
It's kind of like humans, right?
Yeah,
for the most part,
that's right.
We have one child at a time for the most part,
No, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
We're more monogamous, not purely monogamous for sure.
Obviously, yeah.
Because it takes so much time and energy to raise a human child. So you're exactly right. The red-footed booby nests in trees. The blue-footed booby nests on the ground.
Interesting.
Okay, so let's see what other pictures we have.
Oh,
so
they're so cute. Look at their little faces.
Yeah. So the one on the left is an alpha male. The one on the right is a baby. Your baby. Okay, let's keep going. So that's the type of bird I couldn't keep track of, but it was a different bird with an orange beak, looked cool. And I know you like birds, I took that one just
obviously I don't know what kind of bird that is, but someone's gotta look it up in the Merlin app. The Merlin app was put out by the Cornell University, and it's fantastic. You can keep track of, like if you're a bird watcher, you keep track of the birds that you've seen. It becomes a little bit of a competition if you're married to a birder, you know?
Okay.
It's great. And so you would be able to upload that photo and it would tell you what kind of bird it is.
Interesting,
Yeah.
okay. Let's keep going. Oh, there it is. That's the red-footed booby, which ironically has a blue beak. The blue-footed booby does not have a blue beak. And again, it's all about the kind of fish they eat and the chemicals that it creates and how the sun reflects off of it. And if you notice on the right, he's guarding that's a blue-footed booby guarding his chick. And you could tell the blue-footed booby because he doesn't have a blue beak and he's on the ground. Whereas the red-footed booby has the blue beak and is in a nest in the trees.
This is so cool. You're so lucky you got to experience this.
Yeah, it's super neat. And with this, hilarious. He didn't mean to be hilarious. We just thought he was because the way that he spoke. Guide, and he's so passionate about it. That's part of what made it funny, but in a great way. And he would go, believe it or not, the blue-footed booby does not have a blue beak. Take a look. Okay, and the red-footed booby is in the tree. Take a look. Voila.
Oh, that's a fun guide. I love fun guides.
Yeah. King Henry, shout out. Okay. And that's another frigate.
Wow. It looks like a floating stingray in that shot.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All right, keep it going. So that's two cutie sea lions, one bathing in this gorgeous beach, probably the most gorgeous beach I've ever been at. And because they're keeping it pristine, there's so many things you can't do, right?
Good.
And like there's, oh my God, somebody's hat accidentally flew into the water, the effort they made to get it out.
Good.
Right? Like they don't want anybody messing with these beaches. And then a little baby hanging out and resting his head on the rocks on the right. Keep it going. Okay,
wow.
So this is another one that's totally out of Game of Thrones. This is a famous boulder that's in the middle of the islands. And the frigates nest at the top of this one, and it's sky high. And then they dive down and pick off the food of the other birds that are in the lower parts of the boulder. All right, let's keep going. Those are just some colorful crabs. They're everywhere.
Were you allowed to take some home for good eating or no?
No,
Okay.
You're not allowed to take anything home. The marine iguanas are interesting. They go in the water. You see two of them are hanging out there. They look like they're buddies in the front.
They look like stones. Like
Yeah, well, of course, because that's camouflage, right?
Exactly.
But they're not hanging out because they're buddies and they're about to go drinking. They're warming themselves up because they're reptiles. Okay, and they get next to each other to warm themselves up. And the one on the back has red. One of the islands has the Christmas tree iguana. It lights up like a red and green.
Oh, wow.
And again, I forget the exact reason why, pigmentation, camouflage, etc. But a lot of them are red, but some of them are red and green.
They're ugly. I'm
But again, Game of Thrones, House of Dragon.
Totally,
right?
yes.
All right, keep it going. And there's our albatross. Oh, you can't see the one on the left.
What is
the
that?
one on the left? Oh, there you go. It looks like mascara.
It looks like a dove, like a type of dove.
But you see the blue around its eyes, so that was super neat. The albatross in the middle and an albatross egg, but unfortunately it's unguarded. That means that they gave up on that egg. The parents might be dead, but that egg is not going to survive.
No.
And that's nature, baby. Okay, that's survival of the fittest. Okay, and then on the very last night, these sharks pull up to our boat.
That's what that is.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this photo?
These badass sharks, they're huge. 6 of them pulled up next to our boat.
That's
Okay.
terrifying.
Yeah, and then I was thinking, oh, remember that day we were supposed to stick together because there might be sharks in the water? And these guys wouldn't come that close to the reefs, so they wouldn't. But man, if we saw them in the water, holy cow,
no, I'd be
that would
terrified.
scare the living crap out of you. Okay, we wanted to see the sharks. We thought there was no chance. See, that one I got up a little bit closer, but you can't, from the pictures, you can't tell how big they were.
And they don't bite?
No, these bite.
Oh my gosh.
These will rip a sea lion's head off.
Yeah.
Okay, they're not likely to attack humans, right? But you'd definitely be taking your chances.
100%.
The sharks they were talking about are smaller because they're the ones that can go up to the reefs, but they're not gonna bite humans because they're too small. Okay, And then we got to the land turtles. There's the sea turtles and the land turtles. Another way that Darwin and others could tell is because some of the turtles are tiny, some of the turtles are gigantic. It depends on which island they're on, right? And some of the turtles have no necks, and this one has a giant neck because on that island, because of the humidity or lack of humidity, I forget which one, I think it was the humidity, there's higher altitude and higher trees. And in order to reach the bushes and the trees that are higher up, it evolved a longer neck.
Damn.
Okay,
So
God, I love evolution.
So interesting.
Yeah, keep it going.
Oh. So Cenk had sent me the picture of the cute little sea lion, and I was like, that's Charlie. That's like a sea version of Charlie. And come on, you don't see the resemblance in their faces?
Yeah, there you have it.
You know?
No, I do see it. I really do see it.
Look at how precious Charlie is. Okay,
we're back to Charlie.
Look at him modeling for the photo, like with his hands crossed.
And he looks like he's modeling too.
Totally.
Sea lion Charlie.
Like this.
All right. Any more pictures or are we on to the videos? Videos? Okay. All right. Now let's check out some mating rituals. So these are the albatrosses.
Oh, this is great. This is so good. This is good.
We got so lucky because it was mating season. So, and remember, this is the only place in the world that they mate, and not all over the Galapagos Islands, just on this tiny little island.
Are they making out? What's going on?
Yes,
They're making out.
They literally make out.
Yeah, play that music, Bart.
Get it.
It's amazing.
And then he waddles away, making, I forget which one's the male and the female, but it makes the other one chase it. Now this is the blue-footed boobies doing a very similar ritual. Though one saying, come and get me, and then they're like, all right, fine, let's make out.
This is amazing.
We got lucky on so many things. And now this is the tortoises, and we caught them mating.
Wow.
And what's hilarious is look at how long it takes for them to thrust. You saw the first thrust, waiting, yeah, finally second one.
Some like it long and slow.
It takes about, so the whole mating processes for the tortoises take 5 to 6 hours.
No.
Okay.
Let's wrap it up. Wrap it up. I got things to do. That's crazy.
She was a hoe. For show.
First, the female comes into the male's orbit, right? And she makes the male chase her. Why? Because she wants to know how fit he is. Okay, and so that takes a while because they're tortoises, and he finally catches up to her. And then we got super lucky that we happened to see it in motion, right?
Right.
And then it took so long. We're like, we gotta go. And he grunts. He grunts and thrusts, and it takes about 10 to 15 seconds between each thrust.
Wow.
They even have sex super slow.
That's amazing. How many thrusts were you able to witness before you just couldn't take it anymore?
Well, I taped 2 there,
yeah.
But we were there for, I don't know, a couple of minutes, and I don't know, 4 or 5. I lost track, but I'm like, let's go, bro, let's go, right? And he's finally like, boom.
Merge.
So apparently nobody's premature in the tortoise world. Okay.
That's amazing.
They're willing to satisfy. All right, we're gonna run out of time. So I love these, and I want to read them to you on another Operation Joy segment. But I got to read at least one for you, not having to do with the Galapagos. But last thing on the Galapagos is, it gave me so much joy to be able to see all that. So I wanted to share it with you. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you're appreciative of Ecuador doing a brilliant job of preserving it for all of humanity and all of nature, right? And just the wonder of nature and how beautiful it is and how amazing it is and how we could all learn from it. And then lastly, like I said, it was sacred ground for me. So it was like kind of almost a spiritual experience that I wanted to share with you guys.
Spiritual, right? Like when I'm in nature, I feel God. I've said that before. And it's a spiritual thing. It's not based in any religious doctrine. It's just, I don't know. There's something so miraculous about it. And I'm so happy you went. I want to go now, even though getting there is hard and I don't want to deal with that.
So you guys know I'm not religious at all, right? But if you conceive of a God, I think the fairest description of God is nature.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, so I'll do one of your comments from today because I appreciated it. We'll go to One True Coffee Dragon. This week is easy, they said. I'm finally booking tickets to bring 2 little Americans home for their first visit to their other country because they're in Japan. They're Americans, but they live in Japan. This will be the first time they meet their American family. First COVID and then the war had put the price pretty much out of reach, but we're finally at a point where we can afford to make the trip. My kids will be 8 and 6 and meeting their grandmother for the first time.
Wow.
I'm looking forward to all the things that I get to introduce them to. A lot of them seem to involve food, which I know Cenk will appreciate. American barbecue and Waffle House.
Nice.
America, bing, as my daughter says, that's supposed to be the eagle, right? I love that you're looking forward to showing them Waffle House and American barbecue. And remember, the World Cup was here and all those Europeans and others came here and they're like, wow, American food is so much better than we realized.
I mean, it's delicious. I wouldn't say it's so much better.
It's better than they realized. Like they were amazed at how good it was. And I thought, America, bing.
No, we know how to make delicious food. Not necessarily the healthiest, but delicious.
Yes, that's definitely true.
Yeah.
And then they concluded by saying, the thing I'm looking forward to introducing them to the most though, a backyard.
Damn right.
They're city kids from Japan and the notion of a private park just for them is going to blow their minds. I'm so looking forward to it. I just gotta say, that's exactly what I thought when I came to America. Because I lived in a big city, Istanbul, and it was gray and concrete. It was beautiful in other ways, but where we lived was just an apartment building next to other apartment buildings. When I came to America, I couldn't believe the yard. I'm like, this yard is just ours? That's crazy. It's like this, to me, it felt like a giant park, as you put it.
Yeah.
But you have it. Now, I didn't know I had to mow the lawn of that giant park and rake the leaves of that giant park, but it felt like giant to me. And it's a thing of beauty, guys, so appreciate what we have. There's a lot of things that go wrong here, but there's also incredible beauty here and wonderful things to appreciate. And I love that you guys are doing that. And thank you for sharing with us. America! There you go, bing. Okay, much love, old school tonight. Well, we're talking about what's your sacred ground and many other fun topics like that. We love you guys, we're gonna see you tomorrow and bye-bye.
She was a hoe. For show.